Our guest on this episode of the podcast is Captain Chris Gergely. Chris is the owner and operator of LT Marine and Laurel Tool and Engineering Company. He and his crew make everything from medical parts to swivel rod holders and commercial grade landing equipment for tuna, swordfish, and other pelagic species. His stuff is built with incredibly tight tolerances. He overbuilds everything. He's a very attentive to detail kind of guy and is always a pleasure to sit down and have a conversation with. When he's not too busy in the shop, he runs charters aboard his own boat. He also works with Jesse Martello, who's a friend of ours. And we helped run the charity event, Think Big Jesse, the past season on the podcast for Jesse's son. Chris is very close with the family. In this conversation, Chris goes into details about part manufacturing, product manufacturing, talks about creativity, what it's like to run a machine shop and be a tool maker. We talk about everything from $250,000 CNC machines crashing to Chris and his crew recently catching fish up to 800, 900, 1,000 pounds just a few miles off the beach of his home waters of Rhode Island and Connecticut. So we had a great time, fun couple of hours, and it was a pleasure to have Chris on. So without further ado, please welcome Captain Chris Gergely, the owner of LT Marine and Laurel Tool and Engineering. Welcome to the SeaBros Fishing Podcast, where we follow 3 words of wisdom. You can't catch them if you don't have a hook in the water. Always trust your instincts. And the last, you'll just have to keep listening. Stay tight.
Yep, that's the one. That's the real one. Oh. Get up there, man. All right, get down right now. All right, down real good. We doubled up. We doubled up. We doubled up. All right. Am I coming off or what? Get that down. Don't get on that rock.
Dude, you must be busy right now.
You know what? We are. It slowed down right around the election. End of October, early November, things kind of ground to a little bit of a halt. And I talked to a lot of people in the industry, and everybody had the same opinion. And since then, Black Friday was unfreaking real for us this year.
Yeah.
I was dreading, I was thinking, maybe this is the end. Everybody peaked. This whole COVID thing peaked, tackle sales peaked. Now we're going to fall off this cliff. And it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And
no, it seems like it's not going to happen. It's strange.
It's so many people got into this fishing outdoor thing, and you got so many people that own boats now, and they can't afford, they buy the boat, big first-time expense. Then they got to buy the rods, the reels, the rod holders, the gaffs, the harpoons, and everything that goes along with it. And they're not going to drop 30, 40 grand on all that extra stuff in one shot and do it one time.
Yeah.
You spread that expense out over a couple of years. Multiply that by how many people got into this when COVID hit. So I think we're going to have this latency where this is demand
definitely.
is going to go on for another 3 years.
Yeah.
Especially since we're more offshore oriented. So it's I feel like all these newer people that got, new boats, and they probably got all the inshore gear first.
Yes.
So now they might go 2-3 years with just the inshore thing. Then they start seeing their buddies catching tuna. They go, or marlin or wherever they're from, swordfish. And then, just Florida alone, the increase in boats and shit.
Yeah.
That's
Insane.
insane.
So then, you get all these guys turning into big game fishermen, and now they're like, all right, my rod holder just fucking snapped in half from XYZ manufacturer. I need to get some, heavy duty stuff to
happens more often
catch
than you know.
these fish. So yeah, I see your sales definitely getting better over the next couple of years, easily.
They'll continue. And, talking to guys like DeCabia, and, he said that, all the major real manufacturers 2 years ago predicted that things are going to keep going up and then they plateau.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing either. When you get into a steady groove of things, how much product you have to make a month.
Your burn rates are consistent.
Exactly. You just roll with it.
Yeah.
But the last 3 years have been awesome and a living hell at the same time.
What's been the biggest challenge?
There's been multiple big challenges. I can't just say one thing in particular was a big problem. It's you have one problem, then you roll into the next and the next. It's weird. It's like, I liken this stepping into a pile of dog shit. You step in that pile of dog shit, you're preoccupied with scraping the dog shit off your shoe. And that's the problem you're fixated on at that particular point in time. In the meantime, there's another fucking problem, another pile of dog shit you're going to step in and you don't know it.
Yeah.
So at first with COVID, it was, March of 2020, like middle of March when everything shut down, you're sitting on a lot of material and, you're getting ready for show season up here in the Northeast at that time. And then all of a sudden all the shows are canceled one after another. And I'm like, oh my God, we're done. Like, this is doomsday.
Yeah.
So you're stuck with all this material and you're like, well, I guess we got to start blowing things out, like doing fire sales to recoup that money. So we did that and we didn't know what was coming.
Yeah.
So by May, you have tackle shops calling you, hey, how many rod holders can you send us today? Hey, how many harpoons and this and that? I'm like, oh shit, I have nothing. We blew it out. We did sales.
Yeah.
And then that was problem number one. So that started the being behind an 8-ball situation.
Yeah.
Then coming into 2021, all the material shortages started. Like, you couldn't get this stainless steel tubing. You couldn't get stainless steel to make harpoons. Aluminum was starting to become a shortage. Then, you run into a problem where you have to invest so much money to buy more material just to get it in. And
because you're worried about not being able to get it.
Like, you don't know when the next time it's going to be available. Like, I had multiple times where I'm loyal to one material supplier because they take care of me because I order a lot of material from them. So they give me primo pricing. And just so happens a salesman one day wasn't there that I deal with normally.
Yeah.
So I talked to another guy. I placed the order. Number one, I don't get the best price because I'm not dealing with the same salesman.
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens is he takes my order and then 2 weeks go by. I'm like, where's my material? And I'm running out of time to make whatever the hell was we're going to make out of it. Come to find out, without telling me what they did, they took my order and they gave it to somebody else. You asshole.
Yeah.
I spend 6 figures a year with you and doing business, and this is how you treat me. And it goes on more often than not because they were scrambling too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to.
Yeah. If you look, if you work your way backwards from you to the guy you're getting the material from, they're having the same fucking problems.
Shipping issues. And then they've had maybe a client that does 7 figures in material and they needed that scratch.
Yeah. It's hard.
It sucks. It really sucks. I mean,
walk us through I guess, you're talking about the shortages of material during COVID. Well, still even now. What was it like being able to get that product prior to? Was everything more or less on schedule? Could you get what you wanted on time?
Yes, absolutely.
Consistent pricing.
There was never any issue. 2017, 18, 19, it was smooth sailing. We didn't have any issues whatsoever. I'd pick up the phone, order what I needed to make a production run of certain things, and it would be there on time. And we really didn't have any problems with outside vendors because we still use outside vendors to help us. Can't do everything in-house.
Yeah.
You got to rely on people that specialize in things like anodizing. We've got a dedicated company that does welding for us, and they've been, out of all our vendors, they've been the best.
Yeah.
We give them, a couple hundred rod holders at a shot, and then they turn them around for us in 3-4 days because we take care of them,
Yeah.
You pay them literally up front, COD. You have to be creative in your business planning. You have to treat your vendors at the top and take care of them.
Right.
If you want them to take care of you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you're buying their loyalty, but it's business,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of people, especially that are new and getting into it, they kind of try to take advantage of their vendors.
Yes.
And honestly, it's the other way around.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being a boss. You think you can kind of take advantage of your employees, but you're working for your employees.
Yes.
You're working for your event. And you got to be, not that you got to sugarcoat everything you do order wise with them, but you have to really work with them because they can screw you over in a second.
That's the truth.
No,
but those were great times. Those years, we never had any issues.
I can tell you're stressed now.
Oh, dude, it's just bringing back memories.
So fast forward to now, going into this spring, is it any better? Have you been able to modify your ordering process and kind of dial in products? And
we've been more proactive coming into December and January with how we did things. See, it's the other thing too. Like LT Marine is like one segment of our company. We do, it's like now LT Laurel Tool, which is, LT is short for Laurel Tool. We do aerospace work and, sport fishing gear. And the sport fishing segment of the business has almost taken over. But we have another company. So we have my company, L Laurel Tool, and my father owns another company. It's called Vortex, and it's two companies, same building. And Vortex is straight aerospace, medical stuff. And what happens sometimes is you don't know what kind of work's coming in on a particular given day for Vortex's customers. Like we can get like an order from a customer to make like 2,000 pieces. And when you get that, it can tie down several machines for, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And that way it turns into a scheduling nightmare.
Yeah.
So you got to work with that.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So that's been a challenge, especially with what we had going on with COVID. Like in 2020, when COVID hit, the airline industry like crashed. Like there was nobody flying. So the whole aerospace sector just shut down. So that's when LT blew up, and it like took over everything, and like it was 100% go, make as much as we can, as fast as we can, without sacrificing quality. Because haste makes waste, as they say.
Totally.
I mean, you guys should see the scrap bin I have of shit that I don't let get by. Like it could have like minor defects, and I'm like, that ain't shipping. Put it aside, because I'm anal about that stuff.
Yeah.
So it worked out, and right now we're smooth sailing. I think we're over that hump. Like we're better at scheduling, figuring out how much quantities we have to make on stuff, and it works. It's a learning process.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to do this overnight.
No. Nope.
Yeah, that's one thing that I give you super credit, like a lot of credit to, is like I feel like you don't rush. When you design something, you design it, you may tweak it 5 times before you go hardcore marketing.
Yeah, and you actually test stuff. We've
it.
tested so much stuff for you. We've broken and lost so much stuff. Yeah. And not broken and lost. I mean, like stuff right off the rip, prototype, perfect, I
mean, you guys have been awesome. I mean, the way I look at things was like having you guys use our products and like put them through the ringer. I mean, holy shit! If something I make or my company makes, I don't like to use. My company.
It's a team.
Because I have a team. I have a couple great guys that work for me now. If you guys can take something of mine and it lasts like a season or 2 seasons on your boat, 250 charters a year, I'm confident that particular item is going to last a long time on a rec guy's boat or even a commercial guy.
Yeah.
Commercial guys in the Northeast, anywhere, they're not fishing 250 days a year for giants.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's a great area to test things. You guys, Mark DeCabia, we built some custom rod holders for him, and he's had them on Rebels since 2019, and Mark breaks shit too.
Oh yeah.
I've seen
one thing about
stories.
Mark is he's not afraid to fucking put pressure on fish, and he's not afraid to.
He has the attention to detail, but he has that like commercial, keep it simple, and needs to fucking work in the most, pressure, high pressure moments.
Right.
I got a picture of Mark where he's got like a Pen 50 on like a, I don't know, it's like a number 4 butt. No, probably number 2.
Was it a Winthrop butt?
Yeah, it was a Winthrop butt.
Adjustable, right?
Yeah, the T10X. Yeah. It's in the rod holder on the Transformer Rebel, and the fucking rod is like keeled over, touching the water, and he's sitting there smiling with his hand on his head. I'm like holding my head like, oh shit, he's gonna fucking break it. No.
Do you wake up in the middle of the night thinking that something's gonna break that you've put out, or are you able to sleep at night? Like your products, rod holders especially, but harpoons, people relying on those things to actually like finish the job.
Oh, yeah.
So like, are you in the beginning stages of like when you were building these things, were you having panic attacks?
I won't lie and say I wasn't. But the proof was in the pudding. My MO has always been to overbuild things. And it adds a little bit of cost to the product, but with that mantra, you build it to not break it, and it pays off. Yeah. And don't cut corners. It's great. I mean, like I said, you guys using it and abusing it. Mark de Blasio in Waterproof, he's been using my product for probably 7-8 years now. funny
dude's
story.
Fishy as fuck.
He's dialed in.
Yeah.
I don't care where he goes, what he does, he knows it. I was down in Wanchese in 2020, right before COVID, and I got a chance to jump on with him and fish. And I did 2 days with him, and we're down there, and he had a group of guys from his waterproof network that came down and fished with him. And we were all going out. We went out at night, so we did a night bite. I'm sure you went down there too recently, right?
I did. We didn't get one. We had a bite, but it's fucking insane.
It's crazy fishery. I mean, it makes what's going on up here look like
It's a joke.
it's a joke.
It's a bummer it's not longer. I mean, I know they go into different species, but you know, that bluefin fishery there definitely
there's seasons.
I get jealous.
I mean, they're fishing like 9-10 months out of the year.
Right.
You know,
I just mean like bluefin. Bluefin. Yeah.
Their quota is
Tiny.
shit. I mean, like 40, 50 tons. I mean, they don't get much, but that's why their commercial season's so short. But back to the story, I was down there with him, and we're fishing, and his co-captain is sitting there reeling in on a fish. We hooked one on a down rod. And then we hear, I'm like looking over, like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden we hear, I look down under the gunnel, and the rod holder that they were fighting it out of, the fucking tube broke, snapped, fell down. So he's sitting there fighting the giant, like with the pressure of the butt up against the gunnel.
Done that.
Like reeling it in. I mean, we got the fish, but we're like, oh my God. And like, Mark's like, we'll just take another one from one of the other positions and put it over there. I said, Mark, I got rod holders in my truck. So we pull back in. I told, he goes to take a nap because we're going to get ready to go out the next night. And I go out, I size it up, and it was like the old LD style rod holder. And I happen to have, it was a 15 degree. Like he likes to fight out of 15, swivels. So I grabbed the 15 degree out of my truck, put it in. I'm like, yep, bolt holes pretty much line up. I drilled it up a little bit, opened everything up, dropped it right in, sealed it right up, and bang. Next day, we go out in the evening, troll bite. I get it on video. It's actually on one of my on my Instagram from like 3 years ago. We're trolling, and then I'm just sitting there with the camera hanging out, and then like Mark's looking at the screen like, should be an Insta bite. No sooner he stops saying that, bang, rod goes off. It was crazy on the troll. I think we were trolling Joe Schutz with the Ron Z-tail.
Yeah.
It's a big thing down there. And next thing you know, we're fighting that fish out of the LT rod holder where we put it. And he looks over at me. He's like, man, you must be enjoying this. I look at him. Yeah, this is golden.
yeah. That's great.
Yeah, that's panic right there.
Dude, that I know the video you're talking about. That bite is so violent.
It is.
Like with those rigs out as far as they are and like tightening the clips up so hard to get the hook set. It's like terrifying.
Shakes. The whole boat shakes when that outrigger clip goes.
That's how we fish our rigger clips too. Very tight. Like our riggers bend almost every year. I think it matters,
Do you think they fight harder down there? I mean, you've caught them in your waters and you fished up here with Jesse a lot and stuff. And do you think that they act different in that super deep, warmer water?
They do. What you have working against you is the Gulf Stream.
Yeah.
So when you hook a fish, it's not uncommon for the fight time to be longer because they can just like park themselves into the current and replenish themselves with the current running through their gills. I mean, it just recharges them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how aggressive can you get? Like, how much more drag are you going to put on them and, try and get them to the boat quicker? It's tough. Like, I was down there last year fishing with my buddy John Azzato on the No Limit. It's a 45 Young Brothers. And we hooked a fish at like 2 in the morning and we got it in at like 6:30 at night. Sorry, not 6:30
in the morning.
6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So
Even still
4 hour
fight, and you're getting tossed around because it's not exactly great, great conditions. So, but
yikes.
It was a decent fish. It was only a 102-inch fish that cored out at 450 pounds. I mean, that's medium for like you guys, what I consider up here on a bank, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's like medium large.
That was like our average last year.
Yeah.
It's, like Rhode Island, those fish, lethargic. I gave you the tail this year. That thing was 102 inches, 110, cored out at 510 pounds. It was like a suck belly and everything. And that seems to be like what's going on with our fishery in Rhode Island. I mean, you guys have it good up here. I mean,
yeah, we have very like decent quality fish.
Yeah.
Not like Canada where they're crazy plump, but they're also mostly not skinny.
Yeah, they're all usually decent fish. Occasionally they'll get like a long line junker that's like all weird sunken belly, but for the most part, they're all like decent shape.
Yep.
I kind of want to go a little bit into like your engineering, because I'm an engineer and I was in the tackle industry. Our family was in the tackle industry for like at least 15 years.
That's how we met Chris.
That's when we met Chris way back. And I kind of want to get into like, and you may not want to, you know, obviously say like how you build things and stuff, but like, can you walk the average person through like what it takes to put like some of your products on the market? Like what, like I know you don't want to say like how you do certain things probably.
I do
But
place,
like, how many different like machines and types of things?
Basically, how many steps? You don't need to describe each step, but like how many? Because I think a lot of people are like, "Holy you know." You get into this game and you start to understand very, very quickly how expensive things are, but they're expensive for a reason.
Well,
like, how much money does it take to build one of your, you know, multi-piece harpoons? You know, like what? Someone gets a product and they don't take it for granted. Say they're spending, you know, I forget what yours retails for, 3 something.
Right? Yeah, it's 300. That's our average. Yeah.
So if someone's spending $300 on a harpoon, and they're like, "Man, that's an expensive harpoon," or you know, this thing's built. Whatever their view is of it, like walk them through like what it takes, I guess, without saying exactly what it takes.
You're welcome to come to my shop and work for a day.
You know?
Yeah, it's
like so you have some of these newer harpoons now that, I mean, you have like these crazy graphics and shit on there, and
yeah. That's
how many people's hands and stuff are these things going through before they get to the average person?
It's a couple. I mean, most of the grunt work, the machining, and the prep work is done by us in house, and then like the anodizing. Yeah. All those special graphics, even the plain black anodizing, that's got to be done by an outside vendor that we do business with, been doing business with for a long time. And that's a whole other, that's like that specialty thing. Like there's environmental rules and regulations that go into that. And it's just not worth it for us to do. Yeah. Forget about it. Like the EPA probably wouldn't even let you do it. Like, it's such a environmentally unfriendly process. So that's big thing, outside vendors that do that kind of stuff. But, you know, the cost in making these things is more built into the overhead. Like, Christ, I'll give you an example. Like I did the math the other day. We have like 50 parts for all the components, like 50 to 60 individual items that we machine X amount of to make everything we make. Yeah. And you take that and you split it up over a certain amount of, you know, time that it takes to build everything. Then you look at that, the material that goes into the material is only like 15 to 20% of the cost of everything you make. It's just the way it is. The machine time, and you look at the costs of these machines. I mean, like a CNC lathe that can do like, you got CNC milling centers, you got CNC turning centers. Like we have CNC milling and turning built into one machine. That machine costs today $250,000 to $500,000, depending on how expensive you want with, you know, options and stuff of what you can do. Like Fred from Winthrop. I know Fred really well, awesome guy. He's helped me a lot. I've been to his shop a lot, and he's shown me what he's doing. Like he's going lights out, almost lights out manufacturing, which means he can take a bar of material, load it into a bar feeder, comes in one end, comes out the other end, a finished product. And those machines are like $650,000, $700,000 a piece. He's like, yeah, hey, Chris, I just bought another 2 Eurotech mill turns. Yeah. Holy shit. That's, you know, hats off to him, you know? Yeah. That's a lot of investment right there. Mm-hmm. That's where a big chunk of the cost comes from to make these items. Yeah. You know?
And then like the tooling, just...
That's another thing.
Just the tooling for those machines. Yep. And like you just went through a headache, from what I understand.
Yep. We had our Superstar machine, which is that mill turn machine that we have. We were doing an aerospace job. We were cutting cobalt, which is like super hard material. Yeah. Tight tolerance work too. What happened was we loaded a part, and the tooling, same thing. Like your tooling is perishable. You know, you can only get so many parts out of one particular tool. Well, we put new tool in, and we're like, okay, we're good to go. Load the part, hit the green button, close the door, walk away. You know, should be good. 10 minutes later, we should have a nice, good part. Oh, that didn't fucking happen. I'm in my office doing something on the computer, and then I'm in tune. Like after doing this for like 25 years, you can, like on your boat, like you're running your boat.
The noises. It's like the router in the house. Like I can walk around the house and you're probably getting
vibrations, noises,
the vibrations, the weird, like which part of the cut the machine's in.
Yep, you do.
Like okay, it's doing this part, it's doing this contour, just by the noises from the repeatable noises.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is like you hear something off. It's not just that. Like at that time when this happened, I'm sitting there. I hear a vibe like this thudding coming in through the shop floor. I'm like, holy shit, that's not good. Get up. I like Superman out the fucking office, down the hallway, out to the shop floor. By the time I get there, it sounded like a fucking car wreck on I-95.
Oh,
like,
God.
Boom. The whole shop shook, like the sheet metal on the machine. And this machine is like bigger than this room, You can fit like a Hyundai inside of it. That's how big it is.
That's insane.
Boom. And then you hear fucking whack, 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 like somebody's taking like a sledgehammer and like hitting the side of a hull or something. And that was it, game over. The part, like what happened was the cutting insert that was cutting just had a failure. Like it just disintegrated and blew up. And that's happened before. And what happened was the part got ripped out of the chuck and got lodged between the chuck and the turret. The turret on this machine is like 3 feet in diameter. It's big. And that
3 foot diameter of metal.
Yeah.
Just think of how much that weighs.
Well, you need a forklift to get it off the machine. I know.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It wrecked it. It just wrecked the machine. Like the machine, like it's like if you look up CNC machines and stuff on YouTube, you can see how these things work. They're on these slides that go up and down, just like your router, but it's different.
Yeah.
It's just these slides are made out of solid metal, like 1, 2 inch, 1.5 inch thick metal, and the slides are like 3-4 inches wide, and the turret like slides up and down on this x-axis. Well, what happened was with the pressure of that part getting ripped out of the chuck and getting lodged between the chuck and the turret, it like broke the slideway that attaches to that axis. So it's called a gib. It just disintegrated it. Like I walk over there and I see like parts of the machine in the fucking floor, like in the chip pan of the machine. I'm like, holy fucking shit, we're done. We're done. We're fucking go home. We're done, guys. That's what it was like. So
stuff gets expensive quick.
Listen, anytime you pick up the phone to call a CNC technician come out, just take $1,000 out of your wallet and just burn it.
Yeah.
That's how expensive it is. It's just like diesel mechanics.
Yeah.
They know they can get the money for it.
Yeah. Very specialized, skilled.
It is.
I like talking about this stuff because I'm sure there's CNC people listening to this podcast. But
I'm sure.
Just like in general, painting the picture of like what kind of the back end of what you're going through to make these products. There's a lot that happens just to get like something that looks so simple like a rod holder built.
It looks simple, but it's not.
Right.
There's so many steps.
Yeah.
But when this machine like this goes down, like in the way it went down, $20,000 to fix it.
Yeah.
There's no way around it, and it's several weeks. We're up and running now. We got it, thank God.
Yeah.
So
yikes.
You gotta get a fresh 42 Westmac outfitting job to cover that one.
Ironically, there's been a couple of those this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's that kind of overhead that goes into running a business. We have the other big machine we have a water jet in house, and that's what we cut a lot of the the flat parts like top plates for rod holders, backing plates. Swivel plates, everything is cut on that machine, and it's big. It's got a 5-foot by 10-foot table. And it's the same setup as your router. It's got like a gantry that this nozzle travels on, and, it cuts the steel and the stainless and everything with 55,000 pounds per square inch of water pressure mixed with garnet abrasive. And it's a crazy machine. We've had that thing for a long time, and it's like our bread and butter because I've gotten quotes, businesses do things differently. I mean, they look at customers differently. Like I've gotten quotes on having our stuff done outside the shop.
Everybody has. Just
to see where we are in terms of our costs, and to gauge if something catastrophic happens, we got to have stuff made outside. And it's expensive. Like you learn to specialize in what you're making. You make it so many times, you get more efficient at it. Whereas opposed you give it to somebody else to look at, and they're looking at that like, oh, I'm only going to make this once and that's it. So I might as well get top dollar for this job.
Yeah.
So you got to navigate with that kind of stuff too. But that machine has been awesome, you know.
How thick of metal can you cut with that? Like steel?
4-inch thick.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Not efficiently, I'll be honest, because that's a slow thing at that point. But, you know, when you're cutting like 1/8-inch thick stainless steel at like 10, 12 inches a minute, it's pretty quick.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know, we're getting into the technical nitty gritty here.
Yeah, but this is good. People like this shit. Yeah.
What's your top product?
It definitely is rod holders.
Yeah.
It's definitely that. And it's not just, you know, onesie twosies. I mean, we get a lot of people that want to re-outfit their boat. Like they're tired of what they have on there. And just through, you know, us being around as long as we have and, you know, word of mouth, it's been, you know, Joe Schmo has got like 3 of them and they're like talking to Johnny down the road who wants to do 6 of them. And then it turns into that. And, you know, I get a lot of guys that you guys refer to from, you know, like Mike Evanson. He just did both his boats. So,
the Canadians.
Yeah, that's them quick.
A lot of the Canadians on their new builds are doing all your holders.
Yep. The guys up in PEI.
Pretty much any like major down east boat companies, I see your rod holders on every single new build for the most part.
Was it Anthony DeMari?
Yeah.
Yeah, with his Calvin Beal.
Yeah, that thing is beautiful.
Yep, we did them for him. I mean, the list just goes on, and there's so many names so through the years, I just can't keep track anymore.
And you're making the regular, like, standard rectangle top swivel holders now. You're doing blind fasten, same faceplate.
Yeah, explain the blind fasten, because people aren't aware that you even make them.
We really haven't pushed them, because it's like the other ones have been, like, at the forefront. Like, we can only do so much right now with our capacity. The blind mounts are cool because we make them out of solid stainless steel, like a big chunk, 4-inch diameter stainless steel, which is not cheap.
Yeah.
And this is, again, me going back to, like, you know, overbuilding things because it's for a reason. And so guys like Mark who try to break it.
Yeah.
So we, you know, there's a lot more material cost that goes into building those ones, but it's really cool. It's more or less for the guys that have like the sport fish boat that don't want to see the hardware. They don't want the big gaudy rectangular, you know, top plate material on top of their gunnels. You know, with those round ones, you can like you have angled rod holders. You can position them any way, you know, at like a 15-degree outset at 45 degrees outboard and not have to look at like the bolts.
Yeah, they don't look different on top.
They don't. They're all uniform. And that's what a lot of guys have been doing. And we built the same commercial grade mentality into those rod holders because, you know, one thing that we do with a lot of manufacturers don't do with their rod holders is a lot of other guys, they just do like a butt weld where you have a top plate for the rod holder tube, and they just weld it like that. What we did from the start of everything, we actually milled a counterbore at the bottom of the top plate up into it. So that rod tube is recessed up into the top plate. So that really, like, it gives you a secure connection when you weld it.
Right.
And there's not much fatigue there for it to happen when, you know, you're putting a lot of pressure on it.
You don't have leverage on the weld. You have leverage inside the recess.
It's like furniture, like doing any kind of jointing. You're basically doing what you are doing a joint.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And I didn't even realize you did that because you can't tell by looking at it.
No, you can't. Yeah, you can't. And that's been a key thing. I mean, it's another step. You know, it's extra work.
Oh, it's a lot of extra work. Yeah.
But it just adds value to the product and it makes it stronger and better. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I mean, I look at you guys. How many giants you guys land this season?
Oh God.
Yeah, we don't like to talk about numbers a lot. So between our fighting rod holders, so I'm going to say there's one fighting rod holder on the Fortuna, and then there's basically 2 on line shy, but one gets used a little more.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'd say like giants, so fish we're putting over 40 pounds of drag on for like over 45 minutes. I'm going to say, I don't know, definitely over 100 last year.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, between 2 rod holders, basically.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So out of the last 2 years, 200 easily. And that doesn't include
somewhere around there.
That doesn't include like fish that we maybe fought and like lost or hooked up in, or like the hooking up drag. And then the last pinwheel drag is really where we're testing your shit, honestly. Like
R&D drag.
Yeah. Basically, like, as you know, that you could pretty much, if the fish is angled out, you know, you could pretty much fight any rod holder at that point. But it's like getting a down rod bite and going and feeling confident going to 40 pounds or whatever your drags is set at.
Yep.
At a super high angle. And then the pinwheels, honestly, is probably the worst because you're getting that under angle, you know, where you're almost holding the rod out and the fish is going under the corner of the boat. So now you're beyond that vertical point, which a lot of like rod manufacturers, rod holder manufacturers, I don't want to say too much, but certain people that when they design stuff, they don't realize how much pressure you're putting on a fish, not straight down. Like when they're testing their stuff, doing pull tests and all that,
it's static.
They go straight down, it's static, or it's out at an angle or whatever. This is like the most common, you know, pull, but they should be testing 70, 80 pounds of drag at an angle almost 45 degrees back towards
Under
the rod,
hull.
under the hull.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's like primo worst pressure ever because you get all that friction going through the guides at that point. You know, the rod is now flexing in, so you're testing your rod bent inwards with that much pressure. And then think of how much leverage that is on your freaking rod holders, dude. I don't know how you sleep at night, like going back to that point. And now you got these angled butts, which are badass that Winthrop makes.
But it's even more
leverage.
rod holder.
What's funny is Fred was asking me when he was building the T10X or started, he's like,
better make your rod holder stronger.
he showed me a picture of how he tested the T10X. I think they had like it like clamped to like a forklift or something like that. And then he had like a bar of aluminum or something that he put over the other end of it. And they're like hanging off of it, trying to break the fucking thing. And he's like, it's not going anywhere. I'm like, it's crazy because those butts on the T10Xs are like 1 5/8 inches, a little bit bigger, solid aluminum bar stock.
Yeah.
You're not bending that over like a 1.5 foot length. I mean, that's just, you know, engineering dynamics that goes into this kind of stuff. And yeah, it is a lot of pressure, you know, but we did a lot of research when we started making these things and talking to people. And, you know, I didn't just consult people in the industry. I consulted like our welder because, you know, these guys are welders and they're fabricators and they do this shit for a living. Like, you know, they weld two things together that are going to hold platforms and stuff like that, the weight, the support weight, and they know what they're doing. And our welder and I talked about it in, you know, length. What if we do this, do that? And then, you know, that's how I came up with the idea. Well, instead of doing that butt weld, why don't we do the recess? You know, get the rod tube as far up into that top plate as possible. And the other thing we do is he TIG welds everything. You know, our guy's great. He's awesome, and he loves to work. Our welder. I mean,
that's hard to do these days. Is find somebody that likes to work.
Oh my fucking Lord! You know, we've got a great group of guys right now. I mean, and I'm thankful for it. And, you know, like you said, you work for your employees sometimes, and I got to make sure they get paid first before I can take home a paycheck. And that's just the way it is. I treat them right. Like, it's amazing. Like my mate, Brett, I run charters on the weekends on my boat, and I run, you know, charters with Jesse and everything. And my mate, Brett, he works for me part-time now. Like, he comes in, he does a lot of the assembly work, and he does, you know, he's a star team player, man. You know?
That's cool.
I'm trying to groom him. He just got his captain's license. I'm trying to groom him to run the boat for me. So
be nice.
You know, it'd be nice, you know, have the boat make something, and then that way I'm not worried about that, and I can be doing more at the shop because, I mean, this is the bread and butter now, you know. That's
another good aspect you have to your business is you're also out testing stuff yourself.
You have to.
You know,
have to. You can't be a guy that sits behind a desk and, you know, does nothing.
Yeah, and thinks it's going to work, but doesn't actually, you know.
Yeah, you actually
look at every nuance of it in real life situations.
No,
you know?
That's why having you guys on board is huge. That's why, you know. I mean, let's face it, you guys aren't going to pump up a product that doesn't work, right?
Yeah, no.
No, we tell especially since like the podcast and a lot of these things that we've been doing, we have companies that reach out that want to do something or want to advertise or whatever. And, like obviously it's tough to like just turn people down, especially when it comes to money at the end of the day, but you can't just sell yourself out to a company that you've never had a relationship with.
That's true.
And
you need a trial period.
Right. They get like example, Rodan.
Yeah.
Like we didn't push Rodan at all until we fished Rodan for
an entire season.
We
fished an entire season.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
How do you guys like the system? Does it work?
It's unbelievable. I mean, like, we used it a lot. I mean, I put almost as many hours on that thing as I did the outboards this year. But it's sweet. I mean, stuff breaks, just because you're fishing 100+ days a year, like anything. But they make up for, those small issues with unbelievable customer service. Like I text the rep and I have a part at the house the next day.
That's key.
And every single part has a picture, diagram, cheat sheet on how to repair and install yourself. Like you can repair the brain of that thing yourself, no problem.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, they're very simple. They look complex, but they're simple.
Yeah, they're very, very simple. Like I'm not an engineer. I mean, that's Taylor's specialty, and I did it. And like I'm just kind of like your average Joe. Like I can do basic, oil changes and 100-hour service on outboards, no problem. Like that's about the extent of my mechanical expertise. Yep. And I was doing it,
Do you think like the customer service you got from them, do you think it was more incentivized for them to like jump through hoops for you?
I think they do it for, it seems like they definitely prioritize the charter guys, because we got into Rodan through our friend Jason Stock and our other friend Dave White down in Florida, who used them every day, all day with their fisheries. And they even said that, they're like, dude, you'll have a part next day, or, they're based out of their neck of the woods and they can just bring it to their shop, get it fixed. They even give them loaner trolling motors. Nice. It's all plug and play.
Need loaner harpoons.
Oh my God.
When you lose them to the bottom of the ocean, you get a new one. It's not necessarily a loaner. It's like, Chris.
Ryan, have you ever lost a harpoon?
Yeah.
How quickly can you get a new harpoon?
That one.
Yeah, that one.
About that
one. I lost a gaff. You lost a harpoon.
That's always one of my favorite. That's like, it sounds bad. Chris is going to cringe, but like when something is lost, there's always a funny, like something hilarious is said during that moment.
Oh yeah.
If you can just get something like a highlight reel on YouTube, like on GoPro footage, I'll definitely run it on the Instagram.
Oh yeah. Tail gaffs are our most frequent lost item. Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's tricky because they come up and they look like they're like going to lay over and be nicey nice. And then you poke the bear and they swim away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might take this.
No,
we
can pause.
Let me
speaker him.
Brett, what's up, buddy?
We don't have any standard bucks.
You mean the standard butt caps for the harpoons?
Yeah.
They should be in the tray. You know that gray cart next to the Bridgeport over there?
Let me go look.
Go look. I think it's on like the third shelf down.
Third shelf down.
I love it.
Use your eyes, not your fingers.
Wow.
Dude, you got to say hello. You're on the SeaBros Podcast.
Yeah, you're on the podcast right now, pal.
Awesome. You got no butts.
No, they're there. Trust me. We'll find them when I get back. Don't worry.
This sounds like me looking for something in the fridge that's like right in front of my face. My wife's just like, you're a fucking idiot.
Well, you found them?
I found them.
Awesome, dude. You just made my morning. Thank you. Now, how many of them can you crank out? What do you think? How many of those standard heavyweights can you crank out this morning?
This morning, got to finish unwrapping them and finding everything, and I could probably do about 25 or 30.
All right. I'll hold you to it when I get back to this afternoon. If you don't have 30 done, you're getting $100 off your paycheck.
Hey, now. You know what? I can guarantee you at least one.
All right, dude. Thank you. I'll talk to you later, dude. All right. All right. Thanks.
That's funny shit.
Yeah, Brett's awesome. I love him. He's been through, we fish together. I mean, he mates for me, and we do, I think the highlight this year fishing with him was when I was on Jesse's boat. Jesse was tied down with Jesse Jr., having to run him to the hospital for his checkups. No, bone marrow. Jesse was in the hospital with a bone marrow transplant, and I had a charter I had to run. So Jesse said, take my boat. I said, all right. So I took his 35 flowers out, and that was a grueling day because I think this was off Montauk. You had Damon Sacco was there. Like, what's he doing off Montauk? What the fuck? Did you guys have fish up by you?
He goes everywhere.
Yeah, he'll go. He'll go wherever there's an interesting bite.
He was there. He had all the Montauk boys. He had the Rhode Island fleet, a fleet of 150 boats, in this area called the CIA grounds. And it was a lights out day. Everybody was catching these 110 inch fish. It was a slaughter. It was right toward the end of the October quota.
Yeah.
And we're there, we went out the day before. We got our live bluefish because that's what everyone's biting on. And the one thing I've learned is, and Jesse's been adamant about beating this into my head, don't get your live bait the day before. Get it the day off. Go get it, because there's no way in hell that live bait is going to present properly, for, anything. You got to get it right there. You keep it alive for a couple hours and live on your way out, and that's it. So we got the bait the day before. It stayed alive in the live well. I moved my boat to his marina for the end of the season, and I've got a Hooker Electric 2,500 gallon hour bait well pump on mine, and we had that running all night. We had his bait well pump running all night, so we had the bluefish and 2 different bait wells. We thought we were good, but it sucked because everyone's catching around us. I had one boat, center console, that was 100 yards off the bow. They hook up. Then I got another boat 100 yards behind us. They hook up, and I'm looking at the fish finder, and you see these wolf packs of giants come through, stacked up 4 at a time, go under. I'm like, this is our time. Brett, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. Dog shit, nothing. I was like, what the fuck? So I'm lucky that I have a lot of, customers and good friends in that area. And, Max Despoto, awesome guy. Our buddy Andrew Ferrandino, who's got a nice 38 flowers.
Side tangent. We actually bought our first Parker off of Andrew. He has the maple syrup company, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Great kid.
Interesting.
Yeah. Cora. He built that boat himself.
Cora.
It's beautiful.
Yep. So I'm going to give a plug here to Ferrandino Maple. They're best maple syrup in our area.
It's delicious, dude.
I don't think I've had
his whole thing, his whole setup in their barn at their house. Their whole property's unbelievable.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And they're going big time now. They're this is going to be their thing.
Where is he located?
Hamden, Mass.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's actually out by Claire's parents, Springfield, Connecticut.
Parents live in Suffield, right?
Yeah.
That's
Suffield.
where my parents live. So.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a small world.
You're a good shit.
Yeah, Andrew's really cool. That boat, beautiful. He basically built it with his dad. So over there in that barn. But, Andrew hooked up. He got a fish that day. Max Despoto got one. A couple other people we know. And they had fresh bluefish they caught the morning of. And they're calling me on the phone and the radio, and they came by and they gave us their bluefish. Andrew gave us some bluefish, then Max gave us bluefish, and it was fresh,
Yeah.
Gorilla blues. They were 30 some inches long. And I'm like, wow, that's what these guys are catching these things on. So they caught their fish, they run the weigh in, and we're out there at 3 o'clock. It's the 9th inning. We're like, okay, guys, if we don't catch hook up in the next 15 minutes, we're out of here. How many times does this happen?
All the time. Whenever you want to leave, just wait an extra 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So, we had a great charter client. I mean, a guy who fished with us before, and he brought his family out. So we had a 3-year-old kid, a 5-year-old, and a 10-year-old. And having those kids run around Jesse's boat, it was fun. I mean, I get it. I have kids myself, so I appreciate getting them out there. But it was a long day for him. And Brett was just, we were starting to pull in lines, and then we're like, well, let's try this one more. We put out another down bait, and I'm in between the cockpit and the cabin. I'm looking at the finder. I have the boat already running because it's what the hell? We're going to leave in 15 minutes, 10 minutes anyway. I'm looking at the finder. And I'm like, oh shit. You see another wolf pack just coming across the screen. I'm like, Brett, let that fucking bluefish go. Let it down now. Let it down. He starts letting it down. It starts swimming down.
Yeah.
Before you know it, bang, reel screaming. Fish is going toward the bow. I'm like, fuck. I run into the cabin, and I'm like, this is it. We got it. I slammed the boat. Sorry, Jesse. I didn't disrespect your boat, but I put the boat in gear. I turned hard to port just to get out of the way and let the fish run. And then we had him off the transom the whole time. And Brett, holy shit, he was on that fish for like an hour and 45. But we let the charter client do a lot of reeling mid-fight. That's when you're most confident.
A little more settled.
Yeah, it's settled in. And that fish was awesome. It like came up like a submarine out of the water, and then it was on the surface flapping its tail. It was crazy. It was big. Right when we saw it come up, we knew it was a big fish, and this is the biggest one for us this year. And Brett, he was just in it. He was on that rod. And I got a video on our Instagram where
that video's sick.
I'm sitting there. I'm at the rear helm. Justin's got the rear helm controls, which is key.
Game changer.
Game changer.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, and then the charter client's like got the harpoon behind me. It's not on that portion of the video, but they're all ready to go. They hand me the harpoon. Brett's just reeling in the fish, bringing it in. It pinwheels a couple times, and then it comes in, and it just sails in, and I'm like,
boink.
That's it.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
That's the best.
That was like, like emotional release right there. It's like you were out there slugging it out, jealous. Everybody else is hooking up around you, and then finally you get it done.
Oh, yeah. It's funny how the engines... I can't tell you.
Yeah, we have a thing about engines.
Engines, I think, make a huge difference. Like, you're like, we're marking wolf pack after wolf pack. Well, how many times did you mark the same wolf pack?
Yeah.
Like, I think that all the time. And then all of a sudden, you start the engines, their food source is going away, or, they're used to feeding off a commercial vessel or whatever else. I just think it's like, it's just something different. The noise is a little different. The whatever it is, just kind of can turn them on sometimes. I'm talking dozens and dozens of bites like that. Dozens from Canada, here, the canyons, even at night.
Or you pick your first bait out with the engine running.
Yeah.
Or you just turn your engine off as the bait's going out, and you're like, how about the one Stone Ledge, dude? In the fall, the first one we killed on Stone Ledge. We show up. Remember, we were fighting in the morning, you and I, bickering back and forth where to set up and stuff.
Yes.
Finally, we get set up.
Yes. We reset up twice, right?
Reset up twice.
Yeah.
And we hadn't fished there pretty much all year. You fished there a few times drifting and stuff, but we were going to anchor up. It was the first Stone Ledge fish in October, maybe?
Yeah.
And we didn't even get tight on our ball, basically. The engine was still running. I think I was just putting out the first bait, and it went down. Mm-hmm. That was like 100% like, we're the only boat there with a freaking engine running. Didn't mark anything, just boom, insta bites. Mm-hmm. And the same thing with pulling them in. You were just saying.
Yep.
They're attracted to that drone. There's something about certain diesel engines that bring fish to the boat.
Like, I don't think running them all day helps at all. Like, I think the silent definitely helps too, but I think there's sometimes when they're around you and they're not really feeding, and then you turn the engine on, and all of a sudden you're on.
Yeah. It's definitely more with the diesel engines. I mean, did it a couple times in the little boat, but...
You just posted a bite with the little boat. Like that thing was
already on, though.
Yeah, he was already
if you really watch the rod tip, like that floater was already down. It was far float bite, but... Yeah, it's crazy. Extra time, engines running, can make a big difference, for sure.
Yeah.
It's... like off Montauk this past fall, I mean, a lot of the bites were coming right behind the draggers. Mm-hmm. The draggers are one thing. I mean, their bycatch is going over and the fish are feeding on it. But what was interesting about one of the fish we caught in that bite was their belly was full of fluke. I highly doubt they were feeding on the bottom.
Yeah.
You didn't have any the fins were rubs or anything
no
like
red
that.
Throat, nothing.
Exactly. They're not digging through the mud. They're following the dragger around and eating the bycatch. I talked to Walt Gillette at the Canyon Runner seminar last week. I was asking him, I'm like, what his thoughts were about why some of those fish in Rhode Island were just like not good quality. Where are they coming from? Because that population of fish is blowing up. Like 3 years ago, they started showing up, and now it's like they're there 2 years in a row. I mean, I don't think it's not going to not happen.
Yeah, there's consistency to it.
It's a cycle. Mm-hmm. So where are these fish coming from, and why are they such low quality? Like, why are there no fat in them? Why are they lean? I mean, I know what they're feeding on. I mean, there's a lot of sand eels in there. We got a lot of whales with sand eels just off Block Island, and it's just what it's been like the last 2 years. And these fish have been feeding on that. But when they're following draggers eating bycatch, that tells me there isn't a whole lot of forage for them to hold them there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, you wonder if those fish are just moving fish. You know, are they just migrating fish that are either on the way up, down, east, west, whatever, to and from where they actually want to go, and that's why they're kind of skinny.
could they be
They're not settled in.
Could they be spawning too, like down to the slopes?
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
Yeah, maybe they're
Coming in from that and feeding
After
post-spawn.
spawning.
Yeah. Makes sense
Don't
with
know.
them being so skinny, you know.
It'd be nice if they can study this to find out, like, and give us some answers, you know?
I mean, we definitely see skinny fish in June, which obviously they just migrated in, and then we see
But the harpooners also get like Jeff's showing me pictures of June fish
Slobs.
out east that are, you know, it might not be like fall thick all the way through their caudal keel.
Yeah.
But they're like sickle fins forward. They're nice and round and high off the deck when they're laying on their side. So you wonder how long they've been there for, you know. What's the bottom like down off Montauk? Like you know, the bank, for those of you who don't understand, the bank or where, you know, we fish primarily, it's like, you know, 200 to 250 up to, you know, in some spots 70 feet, 68 feet. Most spots like 85 to 95 feet at its shallowest. But
We like the area we fish mostly, the fleet does, like CIA Grounds Butterfish Hole. It's like 180 feet. And then if you head east or west, it's like a depression, like a canyon that comes up. It's called Block Channel mostly. And in the middle of it's about 180. So you got the 30 fathom line that comes from the west, and then it curves up to the north and then back down to the south, and it continues going east. A lot of the fish settle in that zone. So we go from like to about 80, and then up on the ledges, it goes up to like 150 to 140. It's not like a sharp drop off like you have here on the bank, like Middle Bank in that area.
Yeah.
It's a gradual. So
Is it like mostly mud or gravel?
a lot of mud,
Yeah.
a lot of mud and sand. And the other spot, like you got the old spots like Mud Hole, the Gully, those places southeast of Block Island. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like sand and mud.
Yeah.
There's really no gravel out there unless you get to Cox's Ledge,
yeah.
which, you know, is sand eel territory. You know, that's where all the sand eels hang out, and that's why we get all the whales. So I guess the tuna hone in on the whales, and they come in and they feed on the sand eels too.
And the bluefish are on the eels. It's one of their favorite meals too. So
Yeah, you getting the bluefish out there?
We've seen them out there, like
Yeah.
offshore, but you mostly get them around Block Island and Montauk.
I guarantee those things are just going all the way in tight. No one's fishing. I mean, I know guys are fishing in tight. We've seen some crazy pictures, but I think this is like single, double, you know, 4 to 5 fish coming in and mowing on some bluefish and pogies and stuff way in tight. No one's fishing them, and then they're
they use
moving
the
their
eels
well.
as their
just like the
grays.
bay.
Yeah.
Well,
You know?
you're right on that, because the other area that we've been catching them, and historically they haven't been caught there in like 30 plus years, is like Scarborough Beach right off Point Judith. You're 3 miles, 2.5 miles right off the beach. And that bite last 2 years in a row has been phenomenal. Like you go there with bluefish, and you're guaranteed a hookup, you know, if you're in the right spot at the right time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just the population's blowing up, and that's part of the reason why I think this tackle industry, to circle back, the tackle industry has been doing really well. I mean, there's fish to be caught.
Yeah.
You know, I remember back in the mid 2010 teens, like 2015, 16, like 13, 14, those years, canyon fishing just downright sucked. And it wasn't helping much. You know, a lot of people were like, oh, screw it, there's no fish around, we're not going to buy new gear.
Yeah.
You know, people were limited how many trips they were going to do. But, you know, I think we're in a good upswing on the cycle here.
I think COVID really sparked everyone's desire for, you know, living in this country, you know, freedom and independence, but getting so many restrictions thrown on us. Fishing and being in the outdoors is one of those things where you can escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people are willing to invest in that escape to maintain that
Sanity.
level of sanity, independence, freedom with what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, it's still always a battle. I mean, we're fighting several different things right now when it comes to, you know, keeping our fishery at what it is. But
What do you make of all these whales washing up in Long Island?
I'm the type of I definitely think that the wind farm construction stuff is not good. But I'm also kind of like I like to get both perspectives on everything before I make a decision. I don't know that I'm at a decision myself yet. I think generally I don't think it's good, especially like the construction phase and the survey phase of things. You know, I think if you were to fast forward 30 to 40 years, you know, having those structures in place, like, could fish be attracted to it depending on where they are? Maybe. But you're still going to have like supply boats and ships and maintenance being done, and those things break all the fucking time. You have electricity and salt water. You know, it's like, I don't care what you put out there, it's going to fucking fail, you know? So I don't know. I mean, I've read things with the whole, like, how they're surveying the bottom and the, you know, high frequency sound that's like, you know, what was I reading a diagram the other day? It's like a higher decibel level than like a jet engine. If you've ever been outside in an airport, getting into a plane, you know how, you know, uncomfortable that can be. Yeah. So then imagine an animal that uses that to uses sound to communicate, find food, you know, spawn, you know, do all those sorts of things with sound. I think it definitely is disrupting them and impacting them. You know, whether all these whale deaths that are, you know, being shown on social media and some news outlets and whatever are all caused by that, you know, I don't know. But I mean, I don't think it's just like a random coincidence. Yeah. You know,
it's too much of them, you know, washing up to be random.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And the crazy thing is, like, those are the ones that are washing up.
Yeah, exactly. Like what's floating, what's being eaten,
what's sank. Because I mean, just the whales die, they sink. Forget how long it is. There's some scientific shit to it, but they basically are on the bottom, from what I understand, for a while before they even float. You know, so
why doesn't somebody with an ROV, a submersible ROV, go out there and survey
while they're doing it
to see what's on the bottom after these ships come through there and do their surveys?
Like, that would make sense to have like an observer ROV with these surveying boats. Like, wouldn't you think?
I'm using the science here, guys.
Yeah, I know. I know. I don't know. It's like, I fucking hate politics, but I
agree.
We spend so much time out there. You know, I've been so fortunate to spend so much time in our local waters, you know, within 60 miles of our harbor, and what we see and trends and cycles and impacts. And I don't doubt that it's a negative impact. I mean, I don't think it's a good thing. And then you got the whole power plant in the bay and releasing, you know, radioactive wastewater, and we're being told that it's like, you know, low risk. And I don't know. It's amazing. It'd be one thing if you could just, here's my thought on how, if you could just fucking take the whole pool of water, let's say, and dump it into the bay at one time, it would obviously not be a good thing. Yep. But I think that would be the better chance at it getting offshore and getting away, rather than this like piping it out in this slow trickle
creep.
And then it's just going to continuously stay, you know, in the bay. Like, it's not like it's just going to fucking flush out on a moon tide, like southwest wind moon tide. Like, it's not going to just like push all that shit out. Like, I don't know. It's fucking not good.
Maybe that's why you guys have 1,000-pound fish in the bay now.
Yeah. You know, we haven't been doing this as long as like our dad or like that generation. But, you know, in the last 20 years, the bait that we have now is, I don't ever remember seeing bait like this ever, you know, in the early 2000s and late 90s, when we were, you know, hopping on boats when we were 12 years old and shit like that. Like, we were struggling to like get a flat of fresh dead herring to like make chunk baits and shit. And now we go out baitless and get fresh bait every single day, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, it's stories from our grandfather about snagging pogies in Situate Harbor and the mouth of the North River. And I was always just like thought that, like, what? Like, I've never fucking seen one. Like, I've seen peanut bunker, and then fast forward 20 years and sure as shit, like, we're hooking tunas in 18 feet of water on pogies in the mouth of the North River. Like, there's no doubt that things come in cycles, but I also think that our water's been great. Like our water clarity, quality, temperature last year was just magical for bluefin tunas and everything that we had. Like our straight bass fishery, the bait. I just like, what in your right mind would think that releasing a bunch of like unnatural water to a pretty confined
in the bay.
In the bay would be a reasonable thing to do. It makes no fucking sense to me. You know,
I don't even know how it's even
why
an
not
option.
truck it out? Like
It's all money, dude.
I know that.
That's it.
I know that, but it's
Just like the wind farms, it's all money, and it's like
Unfortunately, all the whale shit just gets covered up in some way or another, and
the mackerel
there's
thing.
no way to win.
Like now, it's an endorsement to be able to, basically keep the mackerel limit.
money.
Just tack $30 on, multiply that by the amount of fishermen. It's, I don't know.
All the studying and shit, all that, not all of it, a lot of it, how can we make more dollars? Mm-hmm. If we don't have anything on mackerel, let's tax mackerel. We can't tax mackerel. We can do a fee though and pretend like they're going extinct.
It's almost like they're rather than, there's always battles over the quota for specific species and size limits and slot limits, like on the target, harvested species. But now it's like area and bait. It's almost like they're refining their ways of
attacking us all.
Attacking us. Like they're getting more and more to the baseline.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder to, show what we're seeing out there.
Yep.
This
is going to have ramifications on the whole industry, like tackle wise too. That kind of stuff makes me think like they're taking more away from us in terms of what we can and can't do. And we know that once the government takes, it never gives back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the moratorium on mako shark fishing.
Yeah.
We're not getting that back.
No.
And it's going to be threshers next. They're talking poor beagles, I think I heard. That's on the chopping block sooner or later.
Which is ridiculous because I've never seen so many poor beagles.
I've never seen so many thresher sharks. I'd never caught a thresher shark in my entire life in our local waters until like the last 4 years. And now we're catching half a dozen a year as bycatch.
Yeah.
On one fucking boat.
No chumming.
No chumming, no nothing.
Yeah.
Inshore, offshore, it doesn't matter.
Poor beagles too. I mean, we've had days where we get like a half a dozen baby poor beagles.
Yeah.
30, 40 inches.
Yeah.
All different ones.
And big ones.
They don't have any hooks in their mouths or holes or anything.
Yeah.
Then you get a 400-pounder. It's like, whatever. We could have a whole podcast. We could have 10 podcasts.
If anyone from from the administrative level of government, fisheries, whatever, is listening to this, or is listening to previous episodes and like wants to take into account decades of experience from guys that truly appreciate and respect the resource, this is the best that we've seen it. And you've done what you've done. You'll continue to do what you do in regards to regulating it. But then on top of it, you're going to impact the environment, but then also tell us that we're overfishing or biomasses have gone down and whatever. It's like, it makes no fucking sense. It's so contradictive.
There's no peer reviewed.
There's no connection point. There's no meshing of all these ideas and thoughts together.
Yeah.
It's like, you get all these people that want, the windmills. You get all these people that don't want the windmills. Then you get all these people that are trying to protect the species, and all these people that are just trying to get money out of the fishermen, and no one talks to each other.
No.
The flip side of the windmills too, and when you asked the question, I kind of liked, obviously, like I said, I like to see both sides of it. We went to Mass Maritime. We have friends that are 1,000,000% working on those boats, the supply boats, doing all that. Like, by no means is my opinion like going against your way of making a living and supporting yourself. Like, I get it. Like, there's that whole side of it.
Oh yeah, tons of new jobs.
Yep. There's, like, our friends are directly involved with, some of that shit from the construction standpoint. So, it's like, it's not like they're my enemy or anything like that. It's just, I just don't agree with it. I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's way too hard of an impact on the ecosystem. I think it's way more I think it's way more sensitive than people realize. Like, it's a big ocean, but like, where is the abundance of life in the ocean typically? Right along the shelf.
They're shore.
Inshore.
Right,
those.
Yeah.
You know,
Thing is, you can't see them from shore. That's why people don't care. You know, like this huge one that's basically going in between where we go to the canyons from, you know, the southern Mass to the canyons. Halfway between, they're putting, I don't even remember how many, 200 windmills or some shit. And I mean, you can't see them. Like, you're telling me that if those things were within a mile and all these people in the vineyard and Nantucket and shit are looking at 200 windmills, they wouldn't be fighting against having the windmills.
I know.
Well, they were.
But
they were. Like, I remember they were putting a big push, like, in the early 2000s.
they wanted them close, right? And then everybody complained. Now they're out of their sight.
Yep.
People don't
Out of
care.
sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
That's the way they look at it.
Wait until 100 people die every, 5 years because of the fog running into these fucking things. Not looking at the radar.
Yeah.
One every square mile or whatever it is. Like, that's pretty fucking close when you're going 50 miles an hour in the dark on a center console.
Oh, well,
You know guys are doing it.
we're not going to be able to go 50 miles an hour in a 35 football because this whole right whale thing. I mean, it's just
It doesn't end.
one bullshit thing after another. I
Let's
mean,
go with something positive. You're making me angry.
I think
Let's talk,
I
it's a
think
good
it's
topic,
I think
but-
it's good to talk about. I know. I mean, we haven't talked about it, and like, I'll admittedly say, like, I'm not a scientist. I'm not super well versed in it, but we have the experience on the water to give our opinion, and that's my opinion.
Nope.
call a spade a spade.
A lot of dead whales.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of dead whales.
To me, the whales are like a siren for the highly migratory species. Like, they're the smartest. They have the internal, like, their makeup is to be able to find bait and forage and food as efficiently as possible.
Yep.
And these other less intelligent animals know that. It's a tool for them. So it's not just whales that you're killing. Like, this whole cycle and how things come in cycles and waves, like, now we are, affecting that more and more and more. And it's just, I don't know. It's not right.
No, someone's got to blow a whistle here on this sooner or later. But
Yeah.
So I think there's just too much money involved. I don't see a whistle being blown.
No, it's
Too much money going in too many people's pockets, and a decision will never get made. They might pause it here and there. It's just going to get thrown under the rug like everything else.
Yeah.
I hate to be the Debbie Downer, but it's too far along. They've already committed to all these things already behind the scenes, and it's crazy, really.
Yeah.
The Tautog guys will love it.
Yeah.
The groundfish. Yeah.
Those guys will like it. The snapper guys.
Tunas might even like it. I mean, you see, like, what goes on with the weather buoys, and
Yeah, you never know.
you never know. But it's not like a light switch. It could be generations down the road before that all.
That's a great point.
Did you guys get to fish the weather buoys at all?
Taylor and I fished them on one trip like 5 years ago with Rob West, a buddy of ours.
Yep.
And it was like fucking 10 footers. I think we had like a couple tuna bites. We had like a wahoo and a white marlin off of them. But I've never really spent a lot of time fishing the buoys, honestly.
It was, we made out there a couple times this year. It was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard this year was just amazing all around. We didn't go to the canyons once this year.
I mean, you guys had awesome.
Let's hear about it. Let's hear about it.
Oh, we had some great trips out there. We made a couple trips with Jesse and made a trip out there on Thingfish. My buddy Jared, that new 46 Muscle Ridge.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have seen
That
it.
boat's insane.
Yeah, it is. It is. No expense spared. $3 million. I mean,
Sick.
it's a sick boat. But we were out there with Jesse and we commercial fish. So, there was people, some of the buyers were looking for big eye and we're like, let's get in on this. So we went out there and we were unprepared. Like, it was a jig bite. It was turning into a jig bite. Like, before it turned into a jig bite, it was like a green stick / trolling bite. You can troll around those things and just hook up. We got there and it had shifted more to a jig bite and we didn't know. So we were limited with what we brought. Like, I always bring a couple jigging rods when we go offshore just in case to save the day. And that's what ended up happening. But I had my hooker 80 wide and I was looking at Jesse, and we had already caught like 3 or 4 fish on the jig, and we're like, on these fish for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I mean, they're 100-pound big eye, and they fight like hell. I'm like, dude, we're wasting our fucking time here. We're not going to get any commercial, quantity here doing this. So I looked at Jesse, was like, dude, let's get some of those jigs. Like we had these 200, 300 gram jigs that look like snake mackerel, like the butterfly jigs. And we tied it off to the hooker with like, 10-foot leader of like 60-pound test. That's all we had, fluoro. He's like unprepared. I send it down, and then like I'm down like 200, 250 feet. You can see the fish finder light up like a Christmas tree. Like these things come through in waves, like packs of like 200 at a time. I let it down. I lock up the drag, and then start, pulling it back at 500 feet a minute. And then all of a sudden you see the rod tip just fucking keel over.
Sick.
I'm like, we're on. And I'm just sitting there, and you back off the drag a little bit because you don't want to pull the hook or break the leader.
It's a lot of lead to be coughing around down there.
Exactly. And you're just letting the reel do all the work. And I think we caught like 15 or 20 on the hooker.
That's sick.
And it was like just one after another. I mean, we got there we started jigging at 9 o'clock at night, and by like 3 o'clock in the morning, we're like, okay, we already got like 20 fish in the box. And we're like, then
Are they
okay.
all big eyes, or the yellowfin?
All big eye.
Wow.
All big eye. They were averaged from like, 50 pounds. They were small, 50 to like 120-pound fish. And then we scooted out of there, went over to another area where we go tile fishing. We loaded up with 500 pounds of tile fish, and then went back the next night because we did a 2-day trip, did the same thing all over again. And it was just awesome.
On the meat. That's
a lot
sweet.
of meat. And what's cool is a lot of guys, like I kind of like 25, 30 boats out there at one point, and it was like a small city, and everybody was just kind of like doing their drifts, like in unison. Like everybody would drift a certain way, go out of the fleet, come back, and then do the drift again. And it was like really cool. Like a couple times you have like a boat like 50 feet off your port starboard side. We actually ended up tangling outriggers with another guy, but it was like everybody was cool about it. Like, which is kind of great when you're 100 miles offshore.
Yeah. It's like the fishtails bite with Larry back in the day.
That bite was sick.
Like 2014. I think.
Yeah.
Is that how long
somewhere.
ago that was?
The yellow
9
fin.
years ago, dude.
Oh my god.
Dude, that was one of the most fun canyon trips ever.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Really was.
I'll never forget. What would we leave at like
All quality
2 in
fish.
the afternoon, something like that. Ran through the night, got there in the middle of the night, and the radar looked like you pulled into Situate Harbor in the mooring field.
Jesus.
That's how many boats there were.
Yeah,
And
those-
everyone, I think it was kind of lully, like right when we showed up. And then all of a sudden it was like, I just have never heard that many screaming drags around. You couldn't even tell like where it was coming from.
It was so cool. It'd be quiet for like a second, all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
and and they're all different tones because they're different distances away from you. But at one time you could hear, 30, 40 boats all hooking up at the same time. Guys were all chumming. Picture 300 boats fucking chumming all at once.
What a massacre.
It was insane. Everybody had their own little school of fish under them, and you could just work them, and everything was
Live squid,
out of your
some on
hands
chunks.
and shit.
We jigged a couple.
Yeah. You're
Big
basically just
guys,
fishing,
yellowfins.
one live squid rod and then one
1 or 2
drifting
live
rod?
squid, or 2 floaters and a working line.
Yeah.
Was basically what we were doing, and then we would switch to the spinning rod, and it was unbelievable. And then nothing during the day. I think we caught a couple penguins, longfin, like in the afternoon,
just
our
slept.
second day.
And we slept.
Yeah,
from
we stopped and
noon to 4. We just stopped and drifted.
put a couple baits out middle of the day. Yeah, I think that was one of the only canyon trips where I really haven't trolled. I mean, we trolled a little.
Yeah, we trolled like the first half of the day and not a single bite out of 300 boats. That is the weirdest shit ever.
Yeah,
That many boats all trolling for hours and you don't see a single person get bit. Like maybe, honestly, out of like 300 boats, I'd say there was 10 tunas totally caught.
Yeah.
and most were on the stick, and then a couple guys that got them during the day were just,
Chumming and
and live squid fishing. They're in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
We had the opposite. We went back to the buoys in mid-September. I think there was one of those hurricanes that came up far offshore. It was September 11th. I'm good with dates here. Don't ask me why. Must be with all the analytics I do with the business.
My wife's like that too. She's like Rain Man with phone numbers.
I was going to say.
She can remember everyone's fucking phone number. Like meet you once, look at your phone number on the cell,
That's weird.
and then she can just rattle it off to you.
my buddy Jared just got Thingfish back because he sent it back up to Maine this past winter to get more work done to it, like just, refining stuff, which always happens with new builds. And there was a hurricane that was coming up the coast, and they were forecasting like a 7-foot, 8-foot swell. And me and Joey LaMonica from Joey's Rod Building, a good friend of mine, were like, we got to go. I mean, there's not going to be many people out there. I'm like, yeah, we got to go. So Jared said, let's go. Boat came in, literally. They brought it down from Maine. I get to Montauk with my mate Brett at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I see the boat pulling in the harbor. I'm like, nice. The baby's back. I just love that boat because I get to run it whenever I'm on board. It's like a space shuttle, man. It's
sick.
Like you got a helm with 3 16-inch screens like glued to your face.
Throttle's like click, 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 click.
Literally, it's electronic throttle. You just set it and you sit back with the stid chair, put your feet up, enjoy a coffee.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Sounds like our charter boats.
Yeah. Real comfy.
So we get going. We load up the boat. It's he had the guys that brought the boat down from Maine. He had them flown back to Maine. Like he has a buddy that owns a Cessna, single engine Cessna. He's like, he calls him up. Hey, I forgot the guy's name. Can you bring these guys back? And like, lo and behold, he's waiting at the airport in Montauk. We drive them out there and say, bye guys. Yeah. We leave and then we go back and we load the boat and we leave in the evening. We get out there and it was pretty gnarly at first, and it worked to our advantage because there was a lot of swell, like, tight swell at first, 7 feet, 6 feet. And then it kind of calmed down, but it kept people away. Like people looked at the forecast like, fuck, we're not going in that.
Yeah, but you're in a beast.
We're in a beast.
Yeah.
And we're fishing. We get out there and we start doing the same thing. I brought the hooker and we're doing the same, but repeating, and we had the same success. We start jigging them with the hooker, and then the other guys are jigging them with the regular jigging rods. And this is a scary moment on that trip. One of our friends, Eric, we call him Cecil. He's a big dude, like big husky guy. We're catching fish, like one guy's on, other guy goes to gaff, bring him in. I remember this vividly. Jared's sitting on the mezzanine and he's looking out in the cockpit, and I'm like looking at Jared and I'm like talking and we're like joking around, like he's all happy, like boat's catching fish. This is what it was built for. And then all of a sudden Jared's face just goes fucking blank, like stone. Like I'm looking like, what? Cecil. I'm like, what? I look over. He's gone. I'm like, where the fuck did he go? He's like, he's overboard. I'm like, holy shit. So he gets off the mezzanine, runs to the back deck. I run to the back deck. What happened was Eric like gaffed like an 80-pound big eye and like got it over to the transom where the tuna door was. And something happened, like a swell came up or something, and Eric was holding on to the gaff with the fish and was going nuts. It fucking pulled him right through the tuna door. Like the tuna door broke open. Like the latch, everything just popped.
Holy shit.
Fell in the water. He's down there. And he's like holding on to the fucking gaff while he's in the water. It's fucking phenomenal. So we hand the gaff.
You got the fish.
We did.
Oh my God.
We did. We hand the gaff off to, I think my mate Brett or Joey grabbed it and then brought it overboard. And then me, Jared, and my mate Brett reach in and we just help Eric back up into the boat.
Shit's scary.
It is scary because it's like pitch black. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Holy shit.
There's nobody there. It's just us. And Eric's like, get me out. And he's like, I'm looking down and there's like a school, like 1,000 fucking big eyes swimming around under the boat, like 30 feet under his feet. It was unbelievable.
And 10 tiger sharks.
Oh my God,
what's there that you don't know is there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the tigers are there for sure.
So we got him back in, and then we just put one of the Yeti coolers up, tuna door, like block it so nobody can go through there. And the rest of the trip was sick, where we had like the best green stick bite. It turned into a green stick bite at that point and evolved. The next day, my buddy John from No Limit out in Delaware, he ran from Delaware, Indian River Beach, all the way out to the weather buoys on the furthest south ones where we were. I don't even know how many miles that is, but it's just a long ride to go for, tuna. Like I know Mark de Blasio, Blue Runner, they were out there the day before. So that's saying something about the state of the canyon fishing at that point.
Yeah.
So we were talking to him, and he called us into a bite on one of the other buoys to the east. And we just, 1,500 pounds of big eye, another 300 pounds of yellowfin. We caught a big, 60-some inch wahoo. I mean,
it's a fucking slammer trip.
That is a slammer trip. I mean, that was like the christening of that boat right there.
Yeah.
There was so much blood on that boat. We spent 10 hours the next day cleaning that boat.
Sick. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Dion Children Foundation. The Dion Children Foundation was established by the Dion family as a way to bring awareness to rare and ultra-rare genetic diseases in children, such as limb-girdle muscular dystrophy, or LGMD. LGMD is a neuromuscular disease that causes progressive muscle weakness, leading to the loss of ambulation, and eventually affects the heart and lungs. Recently, the Dion family was faced with the heartbreaking news that their son Peter and daughter Maggie were diagnosed with LGMD and are battling this rare disease. The core belief at the Dion Children Foundation is that no child should be left behind. For more information or to donate to this incredible cause and family, please visit thedionfund.org. The Dion Foundation is also the official charity of the 2023 Nantucket Big Game Battle. So if you are fishing that event this summer, good luck and thank you so much for the support.
When you're, I remember talking to you about doing a podcast a few weeks ago, and you were like, I want to chat a little bit about electric reel jigging.
Yeah.
So like walk us through, and for people that are listening, like, what are you actually doing to get bites? Like, what time of day and like all that stuff? Maybe it's all day.
Action on the rod, like you're jigging by hand, you're using the drag.
What setup and stuff you're using too?
It's simple. We were just using like a regular daytime deep drop rod for like swordfish.
Yeah.
It's got a light action and
like an 80 class rod.
80 class rod. Yep.
Yeah.
That's all I have. And the whole technique is it's really easy. All you're going to do is you just let the jig dive and free spool. Sometimes the jigs don't have enough weight to like pull line off an 80 wide because you got the drag set at like 20, 25 pounds at strike. So there's still a little bit of resistance on the spool. So what I do is I just let it go. And then I just kind of feed line off the spool, like in
like
interval,
helping it fall.
Yeah. Like, you get like an extra feet every time you pull the line out.
Yeah.
Once you get down to like where you think the fish are, I mean, the reel counters are, on those things, they measure revolutions. It's not feet. Like, it's not like, oh, you're at 200 feet, so it's 200. No, it's 200 revolutions. So you multiply that by how many feet of retrieve you have. Like, you have like 3 feet.
That's usually how I do it in my head with the bigger
feet.
Reels, through roughly 3 feet per crank.
Yeah.
So if you're at 200 revolutions, you got to think you're at 600 feet deep because it's 3 feet per
of line anyway,
Yeah.
whether you got an
revolution.
angle or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you just do that. You get it down there. Sometimes you'll get hit on the way down, and then it'll just start ripping line. If that happens, you just slowly lock up the drag. You don't go all the way to strike. You go up, load it up gradually, kind of like setting a circle hook.
Yeah.
Slowly go up and then let the fish hook itself. Because sometimes they get gut hooked, sometimes it's right in the corner. And then you just slowly, you start engaging the retrieve, and then you just watch the rod tip when you're retrieving the fish. Like, if it's keeled over and the fish is trying to take drag, just back off in the electric motor. Like, don't go full fucking bore. Like, this isn't a race.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. Sometimes we do it, they get hit on the retrieve. Like, if I set it down and I don't get anything when I'm deploying the jig, I'll, lock up the drag up to about halfway between strike and free spool, and then start reeling it back. And
Are you going as fast as the thing can go, or?
You vary it. You can like bury it, go like the full 500 feet per minute, and then slow down and like go full bore off.
So you're like, your speed jig.
And then slow pull.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the same technique. And then if you see the rod get keeled over, you're hooked up, then, you engage the reel, but then back off the drag a little bit.
Yeah.
Same thing. Let that fish hook itself, and then you're on. And then
So you're not really sitting in one spot. You're constantly like dropping, say, to 200, 300, 400 feet, and then you're reeling up maybe 100 feet. Working the zone that you're marking the fish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What about the jigs? Like, where's hook placement on the jig? How many ounces, color, stuff like that?
200 to 300 gram jigs.
Yeah.
Like anything like the Shimano butterfly jigs, we were using those. That's all we had at the time, and they worked great. They're about this long.
Yeah.
About like 5-6 inches long. And then they have the assist hooks up at the top.
Is that how big 5 or 6 inches is?
Yeah, tell my wife that's what 5 or 6 inches looks like.
Oh, man. I've got a dirty mind, but we won't go there. But yeah, that's the tackle and the gear that worked for us. And, I'm pretty sure when some people saw us hooking up on the electric, I think a couple other people caught on and started doing it too. I don't know if we're the first guys to invent this technique. I doubt it. I mean,
No, I'm sure.
I'm sure other people have done it.
Kenton, he does that a lot out on the seamounts in Hawaii. I know that he's doing like jig fishing. The guys like hand jig and stuff. I would love to have him on again and talk about that because we know trolling, jig fishing, live bait fishing, dangle fishing. Like he's
Done a little bit of everything.
done a lot of everything.
A lot about
same size class, big eyes, same sort of like biomass situations. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Did color matter? Like day versus night?
we never really did it during the day.
Okay.
It would seem like that jig bite over there just died during the day. It's pretty interesting. It was all night bite for us. But the sad thing is the buoys are gone. They pulled them. So they're moving them down off North Carolina. So as I tell everybody, we all have to learn how to be fishermen again at the canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the honeymoon is over. Now we got to go back to finding water and structure. And
Now, when you were out there, did you ever find pockets of fish, say 10 miles from the buoy, 5 miles from the buoy, similar to the buoy fishing, or all just...
not really. Not
Okay.
really. They were congregated on that thing. I mean, you
Yeah.
think about it. They're in 1,400 feet of water at that point, and usually the chain is scoped out because of the current. So, I mean, the buoy...
It's a big piece of structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The buoy could be like, 300-400 feet over here, but the chain is like, still not under your boat because it's scoped out so much.
And the growth, you get more drag, not as much current, certain situations,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many variables to it.
It's like trolling blindly and you hit 5 high flyers and you get mahi, sometimes yellowfin on those things. So,
But it doesn't mean you can't work a canyon wall and do the jigging at night. And do you try chumming and stuff while you're jigging, or is it pretty much all
jig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't do any of that. It'd be interesting. I mean, guys up here near shore by us, they have no problem finding the bluefin and yellowfin in numbers to jig them
Yeah.
and jig and pop. So I don't see why that won't work out, in the canyon. We just have to have a good body of fish around, So, but
That's cool. I mean, I've seen guys, they do like the automatic jigging, those crazy reels, and I know they do it in Japan a lot too with like the programming, and you could program it to do like, 6-foot swings of line through 2 foot and, different speeds and all that stuff. And it's kind of interesting that you took like a way more simplistic approach to it. And you're able to just drop down and retrieve it. It was more for you of just fighting the fish. You didn't have to deal with fighting the fish.
yeah, it sucks, man. When you're sitting there,
I hate fighting fish.
I don't
once
mind
you're
it.
3 fish in, I mean, I got tennis elbow, both elbows. I'm got carpal tunnel, both my hands. I got to have surgery here shortly. And it's like, dude, after one fish, I'm like, my arms are on fire. I'm like, I work with my hands every day. I mean, it is. And this 100-pound big guy just kicked my fucking ass. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least
I'm getting, how old are you now?
40
You just hit, when did you turn 40?
back in January, unfortunately.
Happy belated.
Oh, thanks.
Dude, I'm 36 now. I hit 35. Tennis elbow, both elbows. Definite like carpal tunnel issues going on. But I feel like when I'm fighting fish, it's fine.
Yeah.
See, adrenaline.
It's
Adrenaline.
The adrenaline.
Yeah.
Blood flows better. And then once you come down and think your muscles have, the lactic acid and all that build up, it's like, holy shit, I'm getting old.
I think, when you first hook up, the adrenaline starts running and you're setting into that fish, settling in, you're fighting them and, you're like all tense and, whatnot. And your arms are like locked up and you're like really into it. And that really wears you out. And I learned through fighting fish with Jesse that, just relax.
Yeah.
So we tell our customers,
Relax.
adrenaline's what ruins you.
Exactly. It wears you out.
We have so many people, not so many people, but a good amount throw up right after. They're
awesome.
like high five, fish's tail roped, everyone's excited. Then all of a sudden it's adrenaline dump, pukage. Nah,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But if you're not used to it, I mean, it's an intense adrenaline dump.
Well,
It's awesome.
it's either that or they lay a Godzilla dump in the head.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever had a poop bite?
I have. When on my boat, when we were out at the canyon like 5 years ago, I mean, it was just like I think it was blue marlin. They just kept coming in and harassing our spread. And I'm up in the tower, and I tell my mate at the time, dude, just keep the boat going, and I got to go drop the kids off at the pool. So I go down and I'm in there, and then all of a sudden I'm in there. I'm like, dropping, and I'm like getting ready to wipe, and then all of a sudden I hear a reel go off, and I'm like, what the fuck? They're all screaming, we're on. And I'm like trying to hurry and not puncture the toilet paper while wiping my ass. We've all been there.
Oh yeah.
No shame. This is the life of being on a boat.
Oh yeah.
Got everything cleaned up as quickly as I can, wash my hands, and I run out on the deck, and fish is gone.
Yeah.
Always.
I rushed that for nothing, boys.
Truly.
They change your fucking skivvies after that.
Oh. Is there a fish? What's the biggest learning experience, or one of the biggest learning experiences you've had from a fish? I mean, I know everyone has the one that got away story. I like to hear it.
It's one of those stories.
Yeah.
Like, it was this year. I learned a lot fishing with Jesse. He's been doing this for a long time.
He's unbelievable.
He is. He's tuned in. He's super patient. He's got a let's get it done mentality.
His instincts are really good.
He's positive. He's a very positive individual too. Like, he's always got like a good outlook on things, and it rubs off on me. And being with him, I learned, patience and just, being aware of things. And sometimes it's the little details that count. But the big thing was patience and understanding that things aren't always going to go your way. It's just, sometimes it's not meant to be. Mm-hmm. And this past summer, fall, we had that bite off Scarborough Beach, and we were out there. Jesse was out there with one of his clients. I was out there, just commercial day with my mate, just the two of us. I brought him some bait, and we help each other out. And he hooked up, and he got like a 110-inch fish. And then he had to go weigh in, get rid of the fish. And I was there, left myself and like 3 or 4 other boats, and another guy hooked up, and I'm just sitting there. We'll get our shot. My mate's getting a little bit, Brett was getting a little bit antsy. Then we finally get our shot. We had half beaks that were just blowing up by our balloon. And, being with Jesse, I know half beaks, fish on the surface. Mm-hmm. We had Pogie got hit, and it took it. And I had my brand new Ayu Technos reel, and I was like, all right, we're going to put this thing through the ropes here, the 130. My mate Brett was on the reel for almost the whole fight. And the fish just ran and ran and ran. It was on the surface runner. We couldn't get it to go down. And we were into this fish for 3.5 hours.
Ugh.
And, I'm sitting there, patience. And my mate Brett is just getting pissed. He's pissed. Brett's like, he's ready to fucking throw the rod and reel in the water. Yeah. This fucking fish, what the fuck?
Sounds like OG.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have that patience. And he's a young gun, young, I want to say young, dumb, full of
Yeah, you can say it.
Not Brett. No, Brett's not dumb. He's definitely not dumb. He's a smart kid. I say he's a kid because he's 25, 24, so he's younger than me. It's kind of funny how you get to that age, you can start talking about people like that. Yeah. And, it was a surface runner. We could never get it down. And then this fish was running to Martha's Vineyard, really due east. And we were probably 3 miles at the beach, off the beach when we hooked it. And then I looked at my chart, and I'm like, this thing pulled us like 4 miles, and there's nothing I can do to get this thing to stop running. And then I'm like, you know what, dude, let's just give it some more drag. Well, we finally got into it, and then we could finally get it under the boat, but it was staying at like 50 feet, and it was gut hooked. So it came up a couple times the surface, and it's bleeding. You can see the blood gushing out of its gills. This ain't fucking good. And then Brett's getting more and more frustrated, and I just look at him. I said, dude, I keep encouraging him. I'm like, dude, you're doing great. You're doing great. And that's one thing I've learned. It's like, you got to be positive no matter how shitty the situation can be. Mm-hmm. Because being negative, being on a boat, being negative and being behind the wheel and the captain, it doesn't do anybody any good if the captain starts losing his shit.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys know that.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Your charter clients don't want to see your father fly off, start, being a Debbie Downer.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say we're never really Debbie Downer unless it's an extreme situation. We've had that, like the one last year where we had 2 harpoons in it, still fighting it for like an hour and a half. That one, he's like at the point, like, it's like smart. It's like jokes, it's like, fucking cut this thing off. Yeah. Like, we're done. We're done with it. Like, that's how you feel, even though looking at it from an outsider's point of view, that's like what you dream of.
Yeah.
You know, you dream of this epic freaking battle and water coming over the transom and like fighting it for a long time and crazy drag pressure and you barely get it done. You know, that's like the success story. But when you're in it, I feel like tension gets high because you just want it to be over.
Yeah.
When in reality, like everybody else watching you wishes they were you.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. What's your biggest loss, learning experience, fish fight? One of them.
I think my biggest learning experience, fish fight, was running the old boat, the Holland. Like one of the first times ever hooking a giant, running the boat myself. So me, Sean, and
Your buddy from Maritime.
and Chris Davis. Southwest corner, early in the season, we hooked an absolute slob.
Eye patch.
And went up into the anchor, and I just didn't know how to like react. I didn't know how to loosen the drag. I didn't know like what to do, you know, because we didn't hook many big fish back then. It's mostly smaller fish. And I stuck my hand out, like the fish ate actually we were fishing only 2 rods, a down rod and like a close floater. It's like a 50-foot mackerel, and ate the 50-foot mackerel, went up towards the anchor and went kind of under the bow of the boat. And instead of like backing off the drag, letting him rub the boat and like being patient, calming myself down, you know, getting the engine running and getting off the ball like nice, I panicked and went over to try to push the line off the hull at 40 pounds of drag. And this is when we're fishing J hooks, you know, all the way up.
Dacron.
Yeah, and the
which
mono
was
wasn't,
probably a savior in that situation.
Yeah, so we didn't break it off. Well, I ended up breaking it off. So what ended up happening was the fish ran towards the bow, and I tried to push the line off instead of going to the wheel first. And when it turned from mono to braid, or Dacron in that case, it just melted. I mean, you can see the scars going through my fingers right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 of my main fingers, all the way to like it cauterized it, and it probably went 1/8 of an inch deep into my hand.
Good thing it was your left hand, right?
Didn't even feel it when it was all happening until after the ordeal. And this whole thing lasted 10 seconds, probably not even. 8, swung, pushed it off. I finally got to the wheel. We got off the ball. Sean and Chris were able to basically get the rod out of the holder, dip it around, and get it towards the back. And it was still kind of hung up. And I actually backed off in the drag too fast and free spooled the rod and broke it off in the reel. I backlashed too quick instead of going slow, you know, backing the drag off. And then we broke the fish off. And like we were the only bite out of like 50 boats in the corner. Yeah. And I was fucking pissed. And it was like my first fish to like prove myself. First big fish. And I actually learned a lot about that. And then walking back to the wheel, we were only like 100 feet off the ball at this point. Going back to the ball, all of a sudden my hand started to hurt, and I looked down. There's no blood. It was black because it burnt so bad. My hand was fucked up for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, yeah.
You know. But that was like just, you know, obviously the line, dangerous, back off the drag, you know, take a deep breath when you get the bite. But, you know, when you're young and you haven't done this, like I think at the time I probably only hooked maybe 10, 20 giants on the bank, you know? So, and I was taking the boat out at like 14, 15.
You learn. The only way
Well,
you
actually,
Like
I was
14, 15. I was like 18 when we started like running it truly ourselves.
Yeah.
When I had my ticket.
which is scary because thinking about kids now that are 15 taking a boat out like that,
I know. Shit
Oh
can
my
happen so
God.
fast.
so scary.
So fast.
That's they have
OG
no,
had some confidence in us though.
well, that's good. I mean, you earned it.
Yeah.
He also was very, the amount of training he put us through, like even just like going like family trips to the spit and stuff, there was always some sort of training exercise involved. He'd throw something over the side, like, how many people you got?
Yeah.
You know, make you turn around and pick up a man overboard and go through those drills. And orienting customers and crew members and clients to safety gear and using the radio properly and proper etiquette, even though his etiquette's fucking ridiculous.
So his comments on the radio.
Oh yeah. But shit can happen fast, you know?
You got to always be prepared for something bad to happen. I mean, you just can't be complacent at any point in time.
Yeah.
I mean, like case in point, like when our friend Eric got dragged overboard right through a fucking tuna door. I mean, what the fuck do you do? You know,
Yeah.
You're out there in a 7-foot swell with, you know, the kid holding onto a fucking tuna in the dark, you know? And, you know, luckily we all have experience and you know, we got him back and everyone was safe, but it happens fast. I mean,
Was that the scariest thing that's happened to you on the boat? Or I mean, maybe it didn't even last that long, but like the brief moment when you were like, oh shit.
that was the biggest oh shit moment I've ever experienced. Was like I think any man overboard situation is like the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
You know, knock on wood, we haven't had anything happen even close to that. I mean, you got your stupid things like like an oh shit moment when you're 100 miles offshore and something mechanical breaks and you're like, oh shit, like, you know, what the fuck, you might be stranded. I mean, I had just a fun canyon trip with a couple guys like 4 years ago. We were out at Fishtails and one of the guys that was on our crew, it was like an open crew call thing. He was referred to me by the local tackle shop in Watch Hill. You know, he wanted to come with us, and I don't want to name names or anything, but kid's never been to the canyon. He's diabetic. He didn't tell me that until we were like 3 hours into the trip. And his way of telling me he's diabetic, oh, hey, Cap, if you see me acting kind of funny, it just means my blood sugar's low. What? I mean, I knew something was up with this kid when he's walking down the dock with an inflatable life vest on, holding like a, what the hell, one of those Penn Squall reels on a 50 class Wally. It's like, this kid's gunning, like he wants to go catch fish. I get it. But, you know, we're out there. And one of my biggest superstitions is when you're on a boat, you don't talk about mechanical failure.
Yeah.
Because that's Murphy's
You
Law.
have it on your mind, but you don't talk about it.
You don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And luckily, I've got twin engines on our towpath, you know, so if one goes down, you got another one to limp home. We're out there, and we get ready to set up for a night chunk bite, swordfish bite, so we kill the engines. Before we kill the engines, the radar fucking dies. And this is a 12 kilowatt Ray Marine open array. I mean, it's not a cheap Super HD radar. They're not cheap. They're like $6,000.
Yeah.
It just dies in the middle of a night troll bite, you know, in the canyon with everyone trying to get big eyes. So you're trying to dodge boats. You're looking for, you know, navigation lights. So that happens. And then, you know, before we kill the engines, the kid comes up to me. He's like, hey, Cap, I mean, what happens if, you know, one of the engines dies? Or how do you get home and you have like an engine go down? I look at him and I'm like, dude, I didn't want to be rude, but I was like, dude, we don't fucking talk about that.
It's like talking about how often does the line break when you're pinwheeling a fish. People say that all the freaking time.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever break them off? I'm like, did you just fucking say that out loud? Did those words just come out of your mouth?
So we kill the engines and we're out there. We're doing our thing overnight. And we did hook a swordfish. And I set the hook for the kid and I hand it off to that guy. And he's sitting there fighting the fish, but he's doing the whole lift up the rod, reel down, lift up. I'm like, dude, just keep the rod at 45 degrees and just reel. Keep tension on the line. He didn't get it. And we lost the fish. So everyone's dejected. And it's like, it is what it is. And I'm like, all right, guys, well, it's already gray dawn. Let's get ready to go, troll, back up the slick, and see if we can catch some yellowfin. Starboard, port engine fires up. Starboard, fucking nothing. I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And then this whole conversation from last night is ringing into my ears. Like, I'm looking at my mate at the time. I'm like, dude, can you stay up here, press the, the ignition button, see if I go down there. I'm looking around. I'm like, fuck, we're fucked. Like, nothing, no power, nothing. I can't get the thing turned over. So I'm like, you know what, guys? At this rate, we're going to be trolling home at 7 knots. And we got like 90 miles to go. Yeah. We're going home. So we're going to troll home. I have my marketing guy on board. I have his daughter who's 10 years old. Man. I have my daughter who, they were 8 years old at the time. I took my daughter 8 years old to the canyon. I mean, I'm sure. Wow.
It's awesome.
It was great because we had a good amount of yellowfin the day before. But everyone was still sleeping when all this was going on. So nobody was, aware of the shit we were in. Yeah. So I can say, guys, thank God for Garmin and Reach. Like, that is like a lifesaver, literally. Yeah. So Jesse's a mechanic, and I'm mechanically inclined, but, when you're thinking on your feet like that, sometimes the simplest thing doesn't come into the forefront of your mind. Like it could be this. Well, it was just a starter relay issue. So I'm messaging Jesse. I'm like, dude, this is what's going on. These are the symptoms. It's not starting. He's like, get a screwdriver, get down there and jump the 2 posts on the starter.
That's what we had
relay.
to do on the Donnell a couple times.
And it's a mechanical engine, so you can do that. Sure shit, get down there, boom, fires right up. All right. Nobody touched the fucking red button.
Don't turn it off. We're going to do that again.
We're going home. We're not going. We were already like 6 miles on our way back, and we just fucking turned around, ran back, and tried to troll up the rest of the day, and then went home. But that's one of those situations where, like, in the moment, you're like, we're fucked. Oh shit.
Yeah.
It's humbling.
Totally.
Hell yeah, it is.
Especially when you're 90 miles offshore.
What's your biggest learning experience?
Fishing
Story. Sorry for the vibrations of the cameras. Riley's
excited.
Scratches.
He likes his butt scratched.
Yeah, Riley's a dog, in case you're wondering.
They can see him. He's in view on the video over here.
Yeah.
Biggest learning experience? There's a lot of them. Just how fast things can happen. It was quick. Like this whole situation was.
Oh god.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Ryan, over here, bub.
Still got everything plugged in?
Yeah, we're all right.
Sit down, buddy.
Riley, sit.
Good boy.
Probably a recent one would be not last year, but the year before with Silent Bill, Queso Cheese, Peaked Hill, coming up on the drift. This is just, I guess the lesson learned is always be ready for a bite, even if the bait, like you just put the bait in the water. Like you can still visually see the bait in the water. This wasn't necessarily that situation, but never just like willy-nilly put a bait out, loose line, and always just maintain situational awareness is what I got out of this, and definitely what he got out of this. Like he hadn't tuna fished all that long, but pulled up on the drift. I don't think we had any bites yet. Pull up on the drift. I literally come out of gear, start on the drift. He gets the mackerel on the down rod. He gets the mackerel on the weighted floater. That's what it was. He put the mackerel on, he gets the lead on, and he's getting the balloon on the weighted floater. And I'm looking at the sounder, and I just see a vertical streak coming up, and I didn't even have time to get the words out of my mouth, and it
Streaker
ate it out of his hands. And it ate and immediately went underneath the bow. Like he ate coming into our starboard side and was already on the port side. Like the line was underneath the boat. Like it was like a 50-50 shot. Do we try to pull him around the bow, or do we try to pull him around the outboards? And I told him to back the drag off. And when he ate and came tight to it, the rod was already like almost rod tip in the water just because of that angle already underneath the boat. So it had so much load and pressure at the hook that when he backed the drag off, he was probably like 25, 30 pounds, and he went down to like 8 pounds. And it just fucking came right up and
Rat's
nested, and it didn't look terrible from my perspective. Like I ran forward and started like trying to fend the rod off on the bow. So I basically had like the rod tip like 2 or 3 guides down in my left hand, and I see this rat's nest starting. So just not thinking, I reached down.
Oh, the wrong way
over the reel this way and tried to push the lever up with my index finger.
Oh God.
And when I did that, the rat's nest loop fired over the, cross member on the spool and caught my ring finger. And I'm like faster than I'm snapping my fingers, and about the sound level of a breakaway on a green stick going is what it sounded like. The 150 top shot with no stretch, like we just have the 100 feet, 120 feet out to the hook. So you don't have that much stretch between the fish and where my hand is on the reel. And it broke. The loop caught me on my ring finger, and the top shot broke on my finger. And luckily it broke, because
if it kept going,
it would have just degloved my finger. Like it was, if it didn't break, I would have lost all the skin on my ring finger.
Eventually
even my whole finger. Yeah. I have a scar just like your cauterized scars. Like it looks like I have like a little white wedding ring on my right hand. But just always be prepared for a bite. There's so many times where like you're letting a floater out and like you're trying to let 2 baits out, you're marking whatever, and you just like kind of like let a whole bunch of line out, or you're pulling line off the reel, which you should never really be doing. Like it's okay to do like if you're in current on the anchor and everything's kind of tight, you can kind of creep a bait out. We do that all the time. But if you're trying to send a bait fast, like always doing it off the rod tip and keeping your hands away from the reel and maintaining tension on the line.
I think a big one is putting stuff into outrigger clips.
Putting stuff in.
That's probably one of the scary, like if you got heavy, 40-pound stuff when you're fishing for, say, sailfish or white marlin or whatever, it's not a big deal because it still will hurt, but it'll just break in your hands.
Yeah.
If it wraps on your wrist, it'll most likely just break and not cut you that bad. But like when you're dealing with like 150 or 200 top shot, I mean, that's pull you over the side of the boat shit.
Oh, yeah.
Or, take your finger off or burn you really, really bad. I mean, thin line can burn you too.
Yeah.
But, holding that stuff or even holding braid, like if you're fishing a ballyhoo really long, you got to put that thing in your outrigger clip and a fish eats it. It's like, say goodbye to your fucking finger. If you have it wrapped weird.
Yeah.
So
especially if you're trying to get like side trackers into the outriggers.
All that stuff.
All that pressure on those
things. It's a good bite, or even if it's not a good bite, you never know. We've had some of the biggest fish we've ever caught trolling eat 4 feet behind the boat. Mm-hmm. So like a bar just right behind the transom doesn't mean it's not going to get eaten. Yep. So it's always like, okay, is it wrapped around the tip? Is it wrapped around another rod as you're putting it up? Like all that stuff, I think's going back to you almost losing your finger. When you told me that in the radio, I was like, picture it in my head. That's why whenever I see somebody letting line out on a tuna reel standing next to it, I always tell them, like, you want the line coming from under your hand off the tips of your fingers, not from your fingers towards the base of your hand. That way, if it does create a knot, it doesn't grab something.
Yeah.
Like even a watch, grab your watch or a bracelet or whatever.
No, we try not to wear any jewelry on the boat. No rings, nothing.
Yeah. I wear I wear a silicone ring.
I wear a silicone ring on the boat. I do wear a watch, and I just like make sure I cover it. And if I'm fighting a fish or even like driving on a fish or, whatever.
You are a watch guy.
I like the watch because I'm very, I don't know, it keeps me more structured throughout like a tide change and bait. And
that makes sense.
I'm not having to like look at the GPS or look at my phone. I can just, you can be at the rod, not have to be, it's a time, no pun intended, but it's a time saver having a watch.
Yeah.
I wear a Tide watch too. I wear like one of those Rip Curl. It's like a $200 Tide watch. I get like 2 seasons out of it. It's honestly, I think, one of my favorite tools that I have.
Know when or when not to eat your overnight oats.
Overnight oats are insta-bite.
Like turning an engine on at the end of the day and talking about leaving.
Yep.
A lot of times you get bites. Bryan pulls out his overnight oats.
Or hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah.
Hard-boiled eggs or overnight oats get the bites for me.
Everyone's got their own weird thing.
They do.
But I also time it with the
you
slack.
do cheat. You straight up cheat.
If it's kind of like a, we talked about when we were on the Billfish Gear podcast. I think it's airing in a couple weeks, but Anthony was, we were talking about that shit and entertaining customers. It's just another entertainment factor.
Yep.
Saving your breakfast for the slack tide just to create a little bit of a shit show. But
well, with us and Jesse, it was these this candy called trolley worms. They're like gummy worms, and they're like addictive. Like once you open a bag of them, you're not going to stop eating them, and they're so bad for you. But me and Jesse's joking. He's like, I want to get sponsored by these guys. I'm going to take a picture of a tuna with a trolley worm hanging out of its mouth. We'll do it.
Gummy bears, gummy worms, those seem to be a common boat snack with a lot of the people that we've had on the podcast.
Klondike bars.
What's your favorite? Like if you had to pick
one boat snack,
it's all you can bring. I think I know yours.
I mean, I eat a lot of granola bars, like those.
That's not what I was going to say.
Favorite boat snack? the chocolate chip mini muffins.
Yeah,
got me
dude,
bad.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Bad one.
Mini little bites.
Yeah, the little bites, like kids' chocolate chip mini muffins. I could eat a 5-gallon bucket of those in the morning.
Mine's jerky.
Jerky's good. I know I have more. How about you? What's like your favorite boat snack?
I'd say we go to like Big Y before every trip, and we get these raspberry turnovers.
Dude, that sounds delicious right
It's
now.
awesome.
The coffee cake, Mike Evanson power play.
Grandma's coffee
Oh
cake.
my lanta.
What is it? Auntie, I don't know.
Auntie Jan's.
It's
or something.
Auntie Jan's or some
It's
shit.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that's good. They make a walnut version.
That's
not,
the one.
Not for me, dude.
You don't like the walnut
I don't like
one?
nuts in my mouth.
I like the texture. Holy shit. That's awesome.
I can agree with you on that one. But
It's
you
great.
guys. I mean, I'll eat the wasabi almonds sometimes.
I can't get down with those. The wasapis and the wasabi. I like wasabi mixed in my soy sauce for sushi. Other than that, not a big wasabi guy.
It gives you it's a little zest, kind of like you start chewing on that. It kind of like wakes you up. You know?
Totally. Spicy. I like spicy jerky for that reason because I feel like it gives you a little boost of energy. It's also like cayenne pepper and that sort of thing. I think is helps your metabolism stay high.
Do you guys like to grill on the boat?
We do.
I do. I prefer the skillet though,
Yeah.
just because it's so much easier to clean, and the grill with charters, like we rarely have time to spend like a half an hour cleaning that thing every week and whatever. But we had that box in the middle that's now 2 live wells that was half storage, and then we actually built a rod holder into it so we could store the grill in there and cook out of it. But we switched that up and then went to it's actually I think the can cooker little single propane burner, and then we have just like a skillet that goes on top of that, so all you have to do is pop that off and clean it out, and the burner stays clean, and it's tiny. Like it fits up in like
12 inches.
like a double wide like laptop case kind of. But hot food on a boat is huge, especially like when you're fishing till sunset.
Yeah. Or overnight.
Yep.
We Jesse will bring like lamb and stuff like that out. We'll set up the grill at night before we switch over, and we'll just do lamb steaks, lamb chops. We'll bring steak. I mean, sausage, chorizo, everything. I mean, we go
I
all
feel like
out.
you can't have enough meat on a offshore trip.
Two of the best grill stories I have was coming home from the canyons with Matt Channel on Salty Seas. We had a grease fire and had to throw it overboard.
The whole grill.
The whole fucking grill. It was like he's got like 1,000-pound vat in the back, and the flames were like 4 feet high coming out of this thing. So we sent that one to a deep grave, and then I told this on Weber's podcast, so you're gonna hear this story twice. But we got a fish up in like a half hour. It was like a 700-pounder. We darted it and took the rig, and we followed it for like 8 miles, waiting for it to die. And we had enough time to fire up the grill and cook steak tips. I have a video of the polyballs shooting by, Weber at the wheel just like creeping up on them, and then lifting the grill lid up, and we got steak tips going while we're chasing this tuna fish down. But I love hot food in a boat. We've been going for 2 hours, boys.
Dude, crazy.
Let's get to our closeout here. So what's I mean, we have podcast ads and all that stuff for you. Obviously we have since the beginning, but if people want to order product, outfit a boat, how do they get in touch with you? Social, all that sort of thing.
Just go to our website, it's ltmarineproducts.com. We're on Instagram, LT Marine Products, Facebook too. Shoot us an email, ltmarineproducts@gmail.com. Sometimes it's kind of hard to respond to people right away. Like I'll get phone calls because admit this, that sometimes you get so ingrained in what you're doing that the phone's ringing. It's like, I'll get it later.
Yeah.
Or, and being in a big industrial building, steel building, you don't have cell phone reception. So, we try to get back to people as quickly as possible. So,
yeah.
But we communicate with our customers all the time. Like, keep people abreast of what's going on with their orders and stuff like that, because communication's key.
Yeah.
Right? Customer service, I mean, can make or break a company, and kind of take that to heart with our company. So, but
one thing with you guys that I appreciate the most, you know, like we were saying with Rodan, is, you know, like looking at prototype stuff and working with you. You guys appreciate feedback. So if there's anyone that's outfitting through you and you have any suggestions on how to tweak products to make them better, like you guys are kind of very, you know, take feedback well and integrate it into your product. So even aside from ordering from Chris and through LT, if there's anything you think could, you know, make things better, stronger, whatever, I mean, don't hesitate to reach out to you.
yeah, we always listen, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not smart enough to think of everything, you know, the first time through. It takes time to develop a product. And if somebody has a better idea, I'm all ears, and, you know, I'll take the input. You know, criticism, we take it. You know, not everything we make is perfect. Sometimes we make changes to some products as we go along in the production history of them. And our goal is to just make things better. Because another thing I really believe in is complacency can kill you.
Yeah.
So, you know, you got to continuously improve your products. That's just the way I see it. And then you take your knowledge from one product and you apply it to the next and how you make it. And that's how you kind of keep things going better and better. So, you know, we're thrilled with where we've come from and how far we've come. I mean, I'm, you know, elated with the help you guys have helped us with, you know, testing the product and, you know, coming up with product ideas, because you guys are the key players in all this, because you guys are on the water. I can't be on the water all the time. It's not my job. So
Yeah.
it's key. It's key to all this, you know, guys
Sure.
like Bob Cook,
man.
awesome guy. I mean, you know, working with him and you guys on the swim hook, and then on the release hook with you guys. I mean, I don't even know who came up with the idea for the swim hook. Was it you or him? I can't.
We both, I think
Is
it was
like
him.
the same time?
It was already
We were texting. We were all he was texting with you and we were texting with you. We were sending you pictures and stuff. And I think we both came up with like the same idea
thing,
with the carabiner clip and making it less mechanical
Yeah.
and more one piece. And then the release hook was a Canadian design. Like they were welding them in their shops, and we used them, you know, the first time up there. And then we brought that idea back to here. And then you started mass producing them.
yeah, there was always like a version of a swim lift hook, whatever you want to call it,
Always.
but
Yeah.
wasn't like a more economical type and one that's just simpler design, you know, like you had the ones that like latched and they were all
Spring-loaded
sharp and everything. So like they're more of like a tow a fish around thing, not necessarily swim a fish back to life. Like yours is like, you know, it's all blunted ends, so there's no way to really kill a fish trying to use it.
Yeah.
So you can actually swim it,
Yeah.
you know.
And that's where you guys came to us with the idea. And then, you know, we thought about it, and with all the input you gave us, we were able to design it like that. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
There's a lot of guys using them now.
Yeah,
See them
there are.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And for lifting a fish. I mean, I know you didn't design them for that, but they work pretty good
Actually,
for
we
lifting.
did. We
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to make it both.
We were,
Swimming right to lifting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm very big about not pigeonholing like a product as being a one type faceted thing. Like we make those tuna tomahawks to spike the tuna. A lot of guys, well, I don't need that. Well, dude, we don't just use it for knocking fish out and, you know, preventing a bloody mess on your deck. We use it to chip ice in Exactix boxes and boner boxes. Because let's face it, if your Yeti freezes over, you're already going to sit there with a rod butt and fucking crack the ice or punch it.
Yeah.
Oh, you grab that tomahawk and you start fucking whaling away at it, you chip ice, and you're good to go.
Even moving fish around in the cockpit with it, you know, tuck
Exactly.
it in their eye, you know, through their bottom jaw. You can slide them around.
We always look at, when we design something, how else can it be used? And this swim hook, the reason why I say it's not just for swimming, we designed so that eyelet that's up by the handle portion, that eyelet is recessed halfway into the shank, so, and welded, obviously. That's a lift point, so you can lift off of that if you have to.
Yeah.
You don't just, you know, you gain yourself, you know, about 3-4 inches of lifting, which can be huge when trying to get the tail over the gunnel.
On a center console, especially, you know.
So,
But yeah, you guys make amazing stuff. We've enjoyed working with you since we met you. We appreciate the product. We appreciate you not yelling at us when we lose things.
I guess it's just my even keel nature. Shit happens, right?
Yeah.
It's going to happen, and I got no problem helping you guys out. I get it. You know, so it's not the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
Look at the teeth mark on this thing.
I know. That one was used heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been through its paces.
That's one of the OGs right there.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome.
Thank you so much for doing this, man.
It's great. It's good
been great.
Good to get up here and talk with you guys after being, working with you for God knows how many years.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Good.
It's always nice to talk fishing in the off season. Yeah. So with that said, we're going to end this on our father's 3 words of fishing wisdom. Remember, you can't catch them if you don't have a hook in the water. Always trust your instincts. And the last one, you'll just have to keep listening. Stay tight, everybody.
All right.
Thank you very much for tuning in to the SeaBros Fishing Podcast. If you would like more information about today's guest, our episode, and show sponsors, or if you want to order hats and apparel, please visit our website at SeaBrosFishing.com. You can also stay up to date on all the latest SeaBros Fishing content and podcast episodes by following us on Instagram at SeaBros Fishing. Finally, to book a trip with us through our family-run charter fishing company, please visit MassBayGuides.com or see our latest updates and fishing reports by following Mass Bay Guides on Instagram and Facebook.